being 6:30, I call a meeting of the Manchester by the Sea Select Board to order. Jeff,
Yeah.
Brian.
Here.
Kathy.
Here.
Ann is here.
John's here.
This meeting is being recorded. Are there any other committees that?
I think I need to wait a few more minutes.
Ah.
To get a quorum.
Okay,
I'll call it to order once I have it.
okay, okay.
Darn well better have a quorum.
6:30. Sometimes.
In that case, I think we will just sit here until. And get the. quorum.
Nate, grab a chair.
So. Wow.
It's gonna be a little, yeah, she agreed to do that at our meeting. Wait, I don't see the report on it.
So, and the phone, none of my passwords. I'm wrong.
Yeah. So, yes.
Sounds like you need to call your kids. Peter said he can't make it. And Jean, be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who's the other one?
Car.
Gar.
You're very planning to hear.
I'm sure he is. He has a very definite opinion.
No, it's like. Yeah.
Right, and we have a quorum.
Okay.
Wait, oh. I heard. Call the planning board meeting to order. We have Gordon Brewster.
Here.
Albert, Sarah Craig, and Chris Owen.
Here.
And we
I
could
think we
get
can go ahead
started.
and start.
You know, we have some non-action item stuff to go through first.
Yeah.
So the first thing is the town meeting procedure. And
Right,
you
so,
wrote that down?
yeah, so we called you all together, to do a little bit of a rehearsal for Monday's meeting. This being Eli's first and my first, we felt it would be, and I think the tradition is typically to do this on Saturday, but we thought we'd get it done tonight. So I think, you know, Eli, I'll pass it off to you, and Michelle's here but as you, in this handout I provided all of you, we've put together the, voting thresholds for each article, and you have a copy of the motions.
Okay, well, this is gonna look a lot like it has every year before. In fact, a lot of the opening comments are gonna be precisely the opening comments that you've heard before. The entire sequence will be the same. So we'll open the meeting, we'll have the customary and traditional offices voted in. And we'll be asked to make comments right after that. Hang on. We're gonna have closed captioning. It's gonna be slightly different from before. It's going to be, we don't have a person on site. Lots of people are doing closed captioning now, so the closed captioning will be.
But it'll show up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a little bit of extra technology layers in there. So after most of my opening comments, I'll recognize Ann because have her opening comments. You have more than you don't need them. Then we'll go through the methods of voting, test vote, and a couple of general comments that I'll make before we get into the articles, dive into Article 1. 2 and 3 are fairly basic. In all of these articles, we'll do it the way we have before, which is, for the most part, I'll read the main motion and the mover and the seconder, and then turn over the podium to whoever is making comments on that particular article, unless the article doesn't have anybody who's going to make comments. I have a list of the articles that people look like they're making comments on. There are several that we don't. If that's gonna change, let me know, and we'll update the list.
Yeah, I'd like to be added to 11 through 16.
11 through 16. We already have Kathy on 11 and John Round on 12 and Jeff Delaney on 13, Brian Solacey on 14, and on 15 and 16, we don't have anybody. So you want to be recognized in addition to the other speakers.
Correct, yes.
All right.
We had those down there, Sarah, before knowing that you were intending to speak on those. So some of those we might pull select board members off just to keep the meeting moving. May not be necessary to have both do opening comments.
Okay, let me know.
Yeah, I don't spend the talk a long time. Except maybe for 4 and 5.
Okay, well, speaking of a long time, so this particular meeting has a lot in it because we didn't do the zoning in the fall. We also have 3 citizens petition articles and a ton of capital articles in addition to the regular finance articles. So it's unclear if we're gonna go to 2 nights or not. But the way we looked at it, we did some analysis of how long we think the various different articles are gonna take. We think it's gonna take a bit over an hour maybe to get through the planning board articles. So what we did is we structured the warrant so all the financial articles are at the front. And if we get to around 9:15 and we haven't finished the financial articles before then, once we finish the financial articles, we'll be looking to adjourn to the next day. Because otherwise, every projection that I can make would have us carrying through to 11:30 or later for the last articles. And I don't think that would be a healthy thing to do. So we'll make that decision a little bit on the fly. Read the room a little bit, but the decision point will be around 9:15. Article 1, nothing fancy about 2 and 3. On Article 4, we're going to do it the way we have done it in the past, which is we will go through the high level departments, and if people want to express holds, we'll deal with the holds afterwards individually, and then we'll go back and we'll go with the main motion.
Want to make sure I'm absolutely clear. You call out holds on, say, police,
On the individual.
on the individual lines in the police. Do you just put them on hold and then wait till the end of everything and go back to the police, or do you deal with the police questions then?
I would deal with police questions then.
Okay,
And then Article 5 is capital, and that is nothing fancy. Most of the other articles all will be dealt with the way they normally are.
Under the Article 5.
Yep.
Is it okay if I speak to the other capital items that are separate warrant articles in my opening remarks?
Let's see, there are quite a few.
Right. Just in a general sense and impact on tax rate sense, because I wanted to kind of do something globally to pull everything together. seemed like,
Well, I
would
should have
be the
said
place
that
to
actually
do it.
we recognize you in front of Article 4. Forgot that part.
Yeah. which is operating, and then 5
Yeah,
capital, but then we have all these other capital articles. And
and you like to split out those comments to from operational and just focus on capital afterwards.
well, I can think about that.
I mean,
It may be that I can,
make those comments as well during Article 4 comments,
yeah,
because you usually talk about the overall state of the,
right, the overall tax rate, and I want to pull in the OPEB savings to cover the cost of some of the capital. But I can include that in Article 4.
yeah, if you can, let's do
Okay.
that. If you think it would be better, then
Yep.
let me know and we'll see if we can work
Okay.
something out about Article 5. The zoning articles, nothing fancy to say about those. The 3 citizens petition articles, the procedure on those is the same. Oh, there are 2. Well, no, the only one, the citizens petition articles in terms of the motions are pretty straightforward. One of them, the citizen petition article for the study committee for ranked choice voting. The motion is long, and I will be reading that from the floor. There'll also be a handout containing the motion. The other ones, the motions are very short. And it will be the standard presentation and discussion by the petitioners. Can't think of anything else in terms of basic flow. It's pretty normal outside of the volume of stuff that we have.
You might have an article, moving to take
Oh, right.
the library article out of order.
Yeah. Decision on that yet?
I'm sorry, I haven't used a day, and I have not talked to Sarah Davis. I will do that. See what. Sarah is on the library.
Yeah.
Board, and if the library board feels that that's important, I will be glad to make that motion. But if they are willing to go with it as it is, less confusion with that.
Okay. Well, let me know and I'll send you a text for the motion.
Thank you.
And we did put together a slide for it in case we need it.
Better to have it done.
And then for Article 8, motion number 3, I'll update your packets. But the school just sent us their motions and we had the incorrect number for motion number 3. So where we have $2,590,239, that's gonna be replaced with $2,573,924.
Is that something that you think on the select board or you need to vote on it all? Okay.
I was just gonna look and see what we voted on.
We
I
didn't,
thought we had
The higher
the,
number.
I thought we had the lower number, but I could be wrong.
no, in your recommendation, it's the 2,590,239. Which is what you voted on at your meeting, which is their January budget number, but in March, their latest budget and what they sent us today changes that to 2,573,924.
Since they're coming down to them.
It's coming down, it's not,
It's within the.
doesn't, yeah. Michelle, do you think that's,
There's no scope issue because there's no specific amount of money in the article itself. So I don't, I think it's totally up to you folks, so we feel like we need to vote that over. I don't think there's a pressing reason to do that, since the board is the higher number, but sometimes the living takes about the eyes across the T, so.
Well, we can come back to that once you have a quorum, if you wanna take a vote to that, Sarah.
I'm just looking at what was on. What we voted on. Because we might have done a recommendation, but we might have voted on a different number.
Yeah, I think your recommendation is off of the January
Did vote a different.
number.
That's what I think.
Yeah,
You did.
I don't have it up yet, but I know we did vote a different.
I thought we had this 7-3 number.
Yeah.
That's what sounds familiar to me.
In the FinCom book where we put, remember this year, we put the, 3 recommendations. That was based off the vote you took at the meeting, and that's 590.
I'm talking about our meeting in a FinCom meeting
Yeah,
when we did the budget.
yep.
I'm trying to get to the right page. Computer's not. There it is, okay. Two 590-239. Yep. Yep, that's what we're voting on. So that was in our last packet.
Yeah. So like, we'll come back to that, I guess, once you have a quorum.
Must be trying in between this page. Left. Very much. No, I didn't try that.
And then the only thing, Eli, you might want to just explain when we get to prior year bills. Because that's not one that's on the warrant every single year, and that requires a forfeits threshold of voting.
We've done that one before. This one's a little bit larger than the ones that
We
we've
did
done.
it last year.
That's generally don't refer to.
Are we gonna need to explain that one?
I figured, be prepared to answer questions on it, not necessarily an opening comment. And then,
Yeah. Well, coming out from. Cause the big one is like 2 years of. Audio activities.
and then just the other thing, just to note that there's 2 motions that we have for Article 21 and Article 22. The zoning articles, so that is if for some reason. Article 20 downtown zoning doesn't pass. Article 21 and Article 20 we'd use the second motion.
Yeah, I've actually reframed them so they're more legally read from the podium. So I just, confirmed it with Mark and we'll get it to.
Great.
But as written, they weren't really framed as an amendment. We're just saying what they usually do.
Mhm.
You have to amend If you don't make a motion.
So so it would say, or is Peter Morton, for instance, before the seconds. The article is printed on page 161 of the FinCom report,
Okay,
but removed from table 4.2 the columns of town center district and Rose Edge.
okay.
It's not an amendment, it's just it's an amended motion.
Okay, so it's not for two votes. it's-
Correct, it's not a two vote, it's an amended motion.
Or revised motion,
Pardon me?
revised motion.
Correct. Revised motion, that's a better word.
Less confusing.
Yes, revised motions.
What kind of, public works is going to talk about, or are they going to just answer questions about the capital bonding?
Well, Chuck will be there as far as questions on the Prop 2.5
Yeah.
capital items.
Yeah.
If there are questions like specific to elements of the project, Chuck and Nate, will you be there too?
Mhm.
Chuck and Nate will be there to answer those questions if I can't.
Mhm.
If there's questions about, the financial elements of those projects, Sarah and I will be able to answer those questions. Is there anything else you want to cover procedure wise, Eli?
I don't think so unless, there's any questions about speakers or.
Yes, it's just on number 9, Article 9. I was originally scheduled to introduce that one, but I had suggested that Sarah do it. I don't think we both need to speak. I don't want to make that clear, I'm sorry.
Yes, it's there.
That's my favorite one.
Right, exactly. I don't need to rain on your parade.
That's for a while, haven't we?
Yeah.
Just only to clarify that the 20 through 24, the main motion will be made by same person who speak.
So right now.
And Brian's last name is pronounced Fry.
Right, yeah, so 20 is Brian, 21 is Chris Olney,
There's only one pass.
22 is Peter Morton, 23 is Sandy Bodmer Turner.
Yep.
24, Sarah Creighton. And then, 25 doesn't, it's not.
Do you think someone should explain the sale of land?
Yes.
Yep.
Should be. I'm aware of it.
Well, are you volunteering to speak to it?
No, yeah, I mean, it's, once it's explained, it's relatively easy.
Yeah.
It's just-
Yes. On the face of it, it's.
Well, I told you, I'll bid him anyway, so.
I'll be prepared to speak to it. Michelle will be there as well if there's any questions about legal procedure regarding sale of land.
Speak to him.
And I imagine Mark is gonna be there to speak to it too.
But in this case, I think we ought to have somebody from the select board explaining why we're getting rid of valuable town property.
How many units did we put on there?
Dog houses or apartments?
Yeah, we have you on that one, Brian? Yeah, we can go over that before Monday. And the request is in appendix 7 on page 64 of the book too, with the map.
Mhm.
And his workers covered.
His letters in there, yep.
The chances that the majority of the people there would read the whole book all the way through to the end.
No, I would imagine your comments would reference
People are gonna be there.
64. Similarly, I imagine you guys will reference the appendix with all your recommendations. So your recommendations are in the back of the book.
It was
They are page 47 to 48. So whoever's speaking on those articles, it'd be a good idea for them to just reference those pages when they're speaking, so people can flip to the back and read, and see the recommendations that you made as well.
okay, or would it be more efficient for the planning board? Maybe an introduction to those 5 articles. Planning board recommends articles 20 to 24, if the recommendation can be found on page 47, 48, and then let Brian speak to them.
Yeah, Eli, that's up to you. Seems to make sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, which way did you want to do?
Well, we can either have Brian just include it in his intro to the downtown, which is probably most efficient.
Sure.
Okay, we'll have Amanda.
Going back to the land business, is the planning board to take any action? Before it's
No, for sale of land you're talking about?
in sale?
No. No, planning board doesn't have to make a recommendation on that.
Now I'm checking. We did that chart about all the boards that need to take action on things.
I think I asked Sharon that question.
It's a
Michelle,
weird bylaw, so I just want to double check.
oh, okay.
Because we got caught up on this once a few years ago.
Yeah, I can't.
And so I worked on it with Alan and Greg, we did a flow chart, but what every board had to do before town meeting, let me just double check.
I think we have to take action if we're acquiring.
Right, and that may be it, that's what I'm saying, it's a weird, unique bylaw.
This car.
Mr. Moore,
There's a seat over here for you. Seat at the table. Because you are making our quorum.
Yeah. Oh. Ignore the message.
Boy, but I didn't get a swivel.
Never mind.
when you're a half an hour late, you get the answer.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam.
You got a chair.
So it is 6:58 and I will call
Signatures. Haven't gotten anything very neat.
Section 8.
It's 6:58 PM on
Today's the 23rd.
April 23rd, and I will call the Finance Committee meeting to order. I have with me in the room Gar Morris, Marty Creighton, John Croft, and myself, Sarah Welch, which makes a quorum.
Would it make sense, since the board is here, just to have the planning board approve it?
Absolutely. I didn't realize you folks had opened a meeting, I think that's a
Sense.
wonderful idea.
Is a motion from the planning board to approve the sale of land, contemplated in, Article 25.
I make that motion.
Second. Oh. It's okay, great, Andy, could you, have people had a chance to at least, read the material? And give it, before we vote on it, just the 5-second
Sure.
summaries, so we.
5-second summary is there's an isolated piece of land, adjacent to the Sawmill Brook Channel, leading to which is, the it is landlocked by property, other properties, and one of the adjacent properties belongs to
I don't know, Mrs. Glovsky,
Mrs. Glove, yeah. Mrs.
One Elm Street, is it One Elm?
One Elm Street, Mrs. Glovsky. They would like to acquire that property. They're contemplating some changes and they think it would be more convenient to have.
The town's no.
The town has, it's about.
It's nine,
Nine.
just under 1,000 square,
Under
900
1,000 square
something square.
And, the town is retaining the right for transit across the land when they need to do repairs to the wall.
Planning board, any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Great. Any opposed? Thank you.
All right, do you wanna, now that you have a quorum, do you wanna go back to 8C?
Oh, yes.
Thanks, that's the right number. Thank you.
Yes, right.
This is not.
Eight. Motion.
And here's the right number.
It having come to our attention that we voted the incorrect number for the Manchester Essex Regional School Committee debt assessed to town of Manchester. Do I have a motion to revote that amount in the amount of $2,573,924?
So,
Do I have a second? Gar, you second?
Second.
Any discussion? Take a vote. Gar,
yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Sarah votes yes. Thank you. And but
Planning board.
Sorry,
yeah.
Good.
But hey, if you want to weigh in, by all means.
No.
where's all we have?
Procedural point, if you don't
Yeah, no, go ahead.
outside speakers, we have all the department heads. Michelle Randazzo, you had.
I'm not having anybody else.
And I have, for the land transfer. I don't have anybody else currently. Does anybody else have any outside counsel, outside expert, outside
We
anything?
might ask Mark Resnick.
Mark Resnick, right, I did have you. Right,
I have another procedural, request.
yeah,
Given that the zoning, we had wanted to try to do it in the fall, we're pushed off to this town meeting. And that I'd like to consider trying to have that, the downtown, Article 2021, at least on the first night. Like the hour is not, so late. I'm worried that they're important and taking a great deal of work and then potentially be pushing them off if there wasn't a forum on the second night again till even a year from now.
Well-
So that's, I mean, certainly if you want to draw it at the inns, ADU and driveways, I think we understand that rationale, but you know, not have agreement with the board that we would advance them at the, so just, it may be a game day decision, I understand that, but I would like to make that. Like to try to get them up first night. So.
yeah, so your point that we might not be able to get a quorum on the second night, part of the reason why I wanted to keep all the zoning articles in the second night if we have to go to one, because it pretty much guarantees that there'll be a quorum.
No,
I'm strongly confident that the downtown zoning will, on its own.
We've had no people at our public hearings.
That's a good thing.
So,
I think that from addition articles, the collection of zoning will definitely drive form. I would be concerned that pulling, cherry picking zoning articles out and pulling it in the first night might exacerbate the, increase the risk that we wouldn't have form on the second night, which is not really fun. So,
so I guess I'm just asking for your consideration. Thanks.
I'll consider it, but right now my approach is probably going to be minus one.
Makes sense.
Is there any other procedural issues?
I don't think so.
Okay. Then there are no comments from people online.
The one shaft. No, I don't. Nope.
Yes,
Just what we do have a question on the form of vote for the Article 20, and I guess Michelle is kind of looking for that, but the flag. It seems to us that reading the original fee ruling that we're increasing, lowering threshold for density.
Yeah, and I think we had a couple of concerns that with the definition of mixed use is not not the statutory definition, and so that could raise a question about the quantum. And that there may be other things that you're doing in this that independently on their own would require 2/3 vote, but we can collab on that. I just texted
Okay,
him.
yeah, just want to make sure that.
So,
it
yeah,
doesn't
no,
block-
we've thought about it, but like we can walk through it in more detail before the meeting. We're all on the same page.
I think we would even entertain amending something to get to that threshold. This is.
It's the same whole procedure.
In terms of, I mean, we have that as 2/3 as well.
It is, you know, it's.
Again, I know we raised these comments initially when we were looking and reviewing the files.
No, they were not raised.
I can show, well, I have them right here. I looked at them beforehand. Just to see what we had what our comments and recommendations were. So I don't know if there was like sort of some further discussion about it, but we absolutely can work it out if it's not substantive, but let's have that discussion so we can hear the.
Yeah, the whole group doesn't need.
okay, so my next question was, does the planning board have a meeting scheduled for?
Yes.
Sunday.
On Monday at 5.
Monday?
Are ADUs 2/3 too, Michelle?
I've had Robin go through all of them before.
Yeah.
To define them, and she said her finish.
Okay.
The issue with the ADUs was that it looks to include both detached and attached ADUs, which is, different from that.
Right.
Hi, yes, I'm in. I'm sorry I'm late, but I have laryngitis, so I'm attending remotely tonight.
Thank you.
So,
Okay.
Finance Committee, additional members have arrived in the, Dean Nahadas and Andy Oldham. Thank you.
No more call for procedure. Okay. The second, the next item is a recommendation vote on Article 6, the senior/community center project. At the moment, the select board has said that they will make their recommendation on the county before. Make a recommendation. I believe you were in the same position.
Correct.
I am going to yield to you to start this discussion.
So we met last Thursday night. And were unable to make a recommendation. And we asked for additional information. And Tony has sent us additional information. So do we have the information we need? And what are our thoughts and questions? I mean, I'll say I have some concerns. And my concern is nothing to do with, I mean, I fully support the senior center. My concern is that it's a property for which we're a 2/3 condo owner. And normally when capital changes are made, condo owners share in the cost. And the town is being asked to pay the full amount of design services instead of having the masons pay 1/3, which is what their ownership share is. So that's a technical concern. And I also looked at the condo documents online, and it appears to me that the condo units are drawn post-construction, which means we paid $1 million, but if we pay for 6 million, let's say, in rehab costs, in effect, we're enriching the Masons by another 2 million. And I just don't know if the town's aware of that, but that raises concerns where we're going ahead as if we're the sole owner, when in fact, we are not. So that was my 2 cents.
Sarah,
Go ahead,
Right.
Dave.
thank you. I think part of the $1 million, it was like 750 for the property and 250 to build the addition. So that's that. I want to support a senior center and keep a project moving. I don't want to go through the same thing as last year where we gave them 50,000 and that was going to be it to fundraising. And now there's another 350, but I'd like to keep the project moving somehow. I've shared some thoughts about trying to make it more of a banquet hall type facility where it might be good for rentable income, similar to Tux Point. If we could, move the main room up front with a veranda overlooking the harbor.
Okay, we're not
but-
going to discuss redesigning the building at this meeting. Our sole purpose at this meeting is determining whether or not we're recommending an expenditure of 350,000 for design. If there's design input to be given, that would not be through the finance committee. That would be directly with the people running the project. Okay.
Right. Well, if it comes down to a yes/no vote on that, I would probably lean to no, unless pending further discussions. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have expressed concerns about the process by which this admittedly and I am enthusiastic about having a senior center. But I am very concerned that our process is flawed, that we have not been candid with voters. I think we are obliged to tell the truth. We told the voters, I don't know, a couple of years ago, you buy the property, that's it. And this will then pay for itself. That's not the case. Okay, I recognize that's not the case. But we got how many voters do we have? Like 3,000 voters in this town? 2,500? who are under one impression, and we're about to walk in and say, well, just put in another 350. We're not quite sure what it's really gonna cost, but you guys, you voters, you taxpayers are gonna put up a substantial portion of whatever that number is. Tough luck. If you care about your seniors, vote for it. If you don't care about people over, and I am one, over the age of 70 or whatever I'm well over that. If you don't care about GAR and all the other seniors, vote against it. But if you care about them, vote for it, even though you don't know what you're doing. I just don't think that's a good system. I don't believe in it. I want to have a senior center. I want to have a place that when GAR is in his dotage and whatever, not that I'm not already in my dotage, I'll stop. That Jody can drop me off and I'll go in and spend the day. So I'm all in favor, but I don't think we're doing it very well. If those of us in the room who've been involved take that as criticism, yes, that is criticism. Sorry, I don't doubt anybody's good intentions, but I don't think this is going very well. And therefore, I could not, in good conscience, vote to recommend this to the voters.
I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to pass over and move it to the fall.
Sarah, I'm glad you brought that up as an option. I wanted to hear what the finance committee had to say. I watched the tape of Thursday night. And then when we had our meeting on Monday, I'm like, whoa, there were some gaps in communication that were clear. And based on what I'm hearing now, it feels like the FinCom has not been fully educated on the special side agreement with the Masons. The fact that it's not a traditional condominium arrangement, that there's a side agreement for as long as the Masons own Unit 1, things are different. And that I'm not hearing an understanding of that piece. And so I understand, a lot of that could not be discussed while we were in negotiations with the Masons, right? But, those negotiations ended and I'm not clear that everybody's been brought up to speed on the east side arrangement. And if I'm wrong, correct me, but that's kind of what I heard.
Yeah, I mean, we closed on the property
10 days ago.
10 days ago.
Right.
So no, we haven't had that discussion with the finance committee since then.
And I think when you do understand the side agreement, there is significant financial difference from a traditional condo association agreement, declaration of trust. So I can understand their reticence.
What are your thoughts, Mark?
Perhaps I can speak to this. I recognize what you're saying, Kathy, and obviously with negotiations, we are not tied into all those details and would like to learn them as we go on. I think our concerns are probably a little bit higher level and sort of listening to GAR talk about this, and we've all talked about it. The process is something that I think is really important here. So, we originally started thinking about the senior center, and I want to clarify, I am very much in favor of this. But, we talked about the church next to the fire station. We've been talking about this for 8 or 9 years and really trying to make this work. And as we understand it now, it's a community center, senior center, town municipal offices in a building shared by another nonprofit organization. A lot of complexity there. And as Dean sort of said, the number began here. And now we're hearing numbers that are closer to maybe 9 million.
No,
And
no.
so we kind of look,
There's a million already.
Oh, got it.
when we kind of look into this, and I'm kind of one of the proponents on the FinCom about long-term thinking. And, you know, when we look at our capital plan, looking out over the next 10, 15, 12, 20 years, we're looking at almost $200 million worth of capital. And, you know, Essex Elementary's numbers are frightening at this point. So I think there's a lot of issues that the voters are going to need to collectively think about here. And I feel like this project needs to fit in with the Facilities Planning Committee, understand where it sits with DPW, public safety, the whole plan. And it just feels like we're kind of rushing into this pretty quickly right now. And again, that's the timing.
You said you've been working on it for 6 years.
Well, we've been sort of in a holding pattern until about a week ago. I mean, one of the comments that comes up in our meetings annually is, have we signed this yet? And, you know, it takes time to get it over the finish line, but a lot of things changed 1 week ago, which triggers a whole bunch of new changes, but I'm not sure we've had time as a town to plan through what those new changes are.
Yeah, can I
That's
ask
our
a question
concern.
about the process? Because I agree with you, the process here is definitely different. However, I disagree that the Facilities Planning Committee, which I am on, would help us prioritize, which is what I kind of heard you say. I disagree that that's the charter of the Facilities Planning Committee. It's our job to advise, okay, the boards who make the decisions. But I absolutely like where you're going, that we have not had a conversation with the town on the overall priorities, right? And my concern about not just Article 6, but all of these, okay? I think we've done what we can to educate people on each individual one. And I think the way things have been done in the past is, you know, you put the articles out in town meeting floor and people have a good debate in person and they vote yay or nay, right? I like town meeting as a way of debating a single issue. I don't think it's the proper forum for prioritizing or for understanding what the town's priorities are. I think we need to have a holistic public forum on our capital priorities. And yes, the Facilities Planning Committee and others can feed into that, but that should happen long before we put, you know, 7 capital items on the warrant.
But-
That's my thought.
But Kathy, one of the challenges with this senior center, community center is that has never appeared
I agree.
on the 5-year capital plan. It has not appeared on the 25-year capital plan, whereas all the other capital items on the town warrant have been on the 5-year and the 25-year plan, and we, DPW, we pushed that off because we couldn't afford it.
I agree with you. I made
It
those
was-
comments on Monday night.
It
I
was
made that exact
on
comment.
Plan,
Yes.
you know, it was on the 5-year plan and the 25-year plan. So I think that's what we're talking about to some extent when we're talking process.
I agree, but when I talk process, I'm not referring to the FinCom's priorities. I'm talking about engaging the public. Like we did, I keep going back to the rotunda, right? We all got a ton of communication from the residents. What do we want to do about the rotunda? Well, let's have a public forum around all of the the big buildings we have to deal with, right? So I'm totally in favor of that. The question is, we are where we are now. How would you like to proceed? Because quite frankly, you know, if we're gonna start passing over stuff, you know, you could make a case that some other things don't have to be done right this second, right? So we are where we are, you know?
I guess like everyone, I do want to see the project go forward. I think we need a commitment to start to go down this road. I think part of what's in my mind as I think about this is how the cost of the project has inflated since we were thinking about it and first authorized it. And I'm not sure that the next step is necessarily full construction documents that are biddable. I think we talked about a process before that was more toward pushing it to be able to get some sponsorship, raise some money. And in order to have that, we need some renderings. You know, we need to have a preliminary concept design, we need to have some nice kind of semi little realistic renderings of the project. And then we need to have a road trip. And we need to, you know, invite some investment from the public, hopefully. And I think for me, that's sort of the next step in the process. And because it feels like if we commit to construction documents, then we're gonna be talking about bidding those documents and awarding a construction contract. And then the town is gonna be fully on the hook for whatever that cost is. And that's not the process that we talked about.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you just said. I would say there's probably a couple of different ways you can do it, though. One of the things that I think should be part of the process is to set a financial target for the fundraising, right? Kind of a go, no go. But I think what we're struggling with, and maybe you can help us with the article or with the motion, maybe you can help us, because what we really need is a good estimate. That is really, in my mind, the way, and I've been on the fence on this one myself, right?
And we're saying the estimate from December is not good.
It's based on, it's based on 10% design. It's not.
It's not design.
So
So I would appreciate your
Yeah.
expertise in what would it take to get a good estimate? Because in fairness to the people who are doing the fundraising, they don't know what to target unless we get a good estimate. So we
If I can just correct one thing, this does not commit the town to bidding or awarding a contract. In
Right.
fact, we would not be allowed to award a contract without construction dollars in hand. And I don't think that the select board has committed to that either. The select board was presented the three concepts, understood that concept one would likely exceed the cost, or the cost would likely exceed the capability of fundraising. And thus town funds would likely need to be added in order to eventually build, but they were careful to be clear that that decision comes later when you have a up-to-date cost estimate, an understanding of how much fundraising is and what the true cost would be to the town, and how that factors into the other capital priorities on the table at that time. And I think that was a wise decision by the select board to be clear about that.
350 is a lot of money.
I recognize that obviously you have to kind of authorize that then next step and appropriate the money and all that, but I guess what I'm saying is that, like, there's pressure upon us to prove this next step as a logical next step, and I guess what I'm saying is, I don't necessarily see this as the next logical step.
Can I ask you, what is your opinion of the next logical
Right.
step?
I think getting, we do want a realistic budget, and I don't know what's behind the numbers that we did see. I don't know if there was like a full tally of spreadsheets of all the trades. I'm assuming that was what was behind that. Yeah. And so, you know, a reasonable estimate for that, you know, concept design. And then again, you know, just some discussion around that as saying, okay, that is a reasonable budget for this project. Yes, we support that. And yes, we want to go forward with full design.
So let me ask you, Nate, what would it take to get to there? Do we need 350 to get to there, or can we go cheaper?
I mean, I think we would have to come to an understanding of what variance in cost estimates we're looking for. Because the further you progress the design, the further you can narrow that kind of band that cost estimate has. So like when we're very early on, like this 10% estimate has a, you know, plus 50% to minus 50% band, because just there's so many unknowns. So the further we can get into design, the further we can narrow that down. You know, if we get to 60% design, I feel like that starts to narrow the band enough that you can, you know, get a bit more accurate. And Andy, I guess, where would you think we need to get to?
Well, I would say, well, percentages are you know.
Yeah.
We know what they mean, but they're kind of nebulous at the same time.
Yeah.
I would say, you know, oftentimes we think in terms of 30% design. So that's like a schematic design process where the whole programming has happened. You know, there's been some consideration of, yes, we want to add this, no, we don't want to pay for that. But it also lands you on the spot where, okay, you get a budget and talk about the budget, but then it also leaves some room for, you know, value engineering the project. So that's, construction documents don't leave you there without then further investment and revising those documents. So I would say we want to draw back from that biddable document thing. And
So what are you recommending, Andy?
so I
What
would
percent,
say, you know, so that's schematic design.
so what, what
and we
percent
may be-
design is that?
What's that?
What percent design?
So 30% is
30%.
what we might think about that as. And I think we're,
Well,
based on the drawings that I've seen, I think we are there. They've done some space
Right.
programming.
Okay.
They've kind of, you know, proposed an addition, 2 additions. So I think that's a good thing to talk about. The only thing that I think is really missing then is, you know, relative to the fundraising or the renderings.
And let me say something about that, Andy. I'm not sure whether we get to 80% or 90% or 30%. I think for fundraising, I don't want to usurp necessarily or say anything out of turn relative to Susan's position. She's here is that we may be able to fundraise with 10% or 20%, giving us a ballpark number. What's very difficult to fundraise without is a heavy endorsement from everybody in town. Because the people that the fundraising group are going to be visiting want to know that the town is 100% behind this. Okay. And, you know, the amount of money that we have to raise is kind of important. People need to know that, but they need to know we're not the only ones that are jumping in. And if we're going to write a check that the town is fully behind this in supporting to make this thing go forward. And if we don't have everybody kind of pushing behind this, it makes the story pretty difficult.
But I
Can I
don't think
ask
it's
just-
350, I don't think that requires spending 350.
Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's, and I'm listening to this information, and maybe something less than that is probably appropriate. But
I have a suggestion.
pretty critical is that we're all kind of pulling in the same direction.
Can I ask if $1 million from the town of Manchester is an evidence of commitment? Or you're thinking that your donors would go, well, no, that's just $1 million. If the town of Manchester could put up 5 million, then I might get out my checkbook.
I don't think what he's saying is about the money. It's about the endorsements behind it, the major boards in town are behind it. If they see that we're not behind this, they're gonna second guess this.
With respect, everyone's saying they want to do it. Words are easy.
Words are easy, and
All I've heard is.
yeah, but I haven't seen any checks from any donors either.
Well, you don't have anything to show them.
You said what?
I've raised a lot of money for nonprofits. I've gone house to house on Smith's Point and raised money for conservation, for housing, for you name it. We didn't have any plans, but we had a pretty compelling story to tell, but I'm not hearing
People want to see.
much.
People want to see exactly what they're paying for. And we can't show them anything other than a floor plan. Like as you point out, we don't even have renderings. And we've already seen cost escalate outlandishly, okay? And to keep on kicking this can down the road, we're gonna see them continue to escalate. I think that $350,000, we're not asking the taxpayers for that money.
It's municipal
Town
fund.
money.
Okay.
It's
I'm
town
sorry.
money. It is town money, but it's not, it comes from.
Okay, we're moving it one pocket to the other.
Yes.
I would like to know what it would cost to get to the approach that Andy has suggested.
That's a really good question.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with.
Right,
that.
I have a compromise. I have a pretty reasonable compromise that, I agree with John that we need to keep the thing going. I also think that we're about at 30% now. But what disturbs me is I don't really like what I see in the floor plan of the best option. And before I can endorse going to final design, which inevitably leads to construction, I'd like to see some changes. So I would favor going to the next level of 60 to 75% complete documents to keep the thing going, but with the expectation to see some changes. Because I see this as a potential significant revenue stream. It's a showcase property, and if we have a decent function hall there, it would be a significant revenue stream that would also justify future town funds.
Dean, we are not discussing that tonight. If we want to discuss the design of the building, the proper way to do that is through public forums, so everyone in the town has the opportunity to contribute. And
Right, but the compromise for the keep moving forward option is to fund a lesser amount to the 60 to 70% design. I would endorse that, and you know, the town would be unified.
When Nate and I met with John Harden to talk about the scope of work that the 350 would get us to, you know, to get to the full design and bid documents, permitting, everything, 350, you know, was pretty close to it. And that's with holding tight on that scope. You know, as you get through the process, you start adding in other desires, your budget starts to break down. So compromising to a lesser amount to get to say 75% design may be doable, but I don't know, Nate, if you, off the top of your head, you know, I don't think it's much less than 350.
what did we spend on the rotunda when we had those public forums?
If we like the progress, we can approve the rest at special town meeting in the fall.
I want to say it was the renderings and all that for both was like around 20,000, 20 to 25.
I mean, it seems to me what's missing on this project is the public input. You've got input from a small segment of town, not the broader town, and that we don't need to hire an architectural firm to do public forums.
But how do you give people an accurate number of what you need? See, this is.
We need the input from the public forums first to nail down the design. And then you can move forward to say, okay, what is that design going to cost? Which is what happened at the rotunda.
The rotunda is not a change of use. It's the same thing. You're rebuilding the same thing. People know what the rotunda looks like.
But there were three completely different projects.
Yeah, there were three options.
That went before townspeople, and townspeople selected the option they liked, which then enabled you to get into the detail and figure out what it was going to cost.
Okay,
So I think
let's say this. If
Right.
we come up with three different options for the senior center, how are we gonna design those three different options? How do we come with that?
We do the same
That's gonna cost money. It's gonna cost something.
He's saying 20,000.
20, 40, 60.
No,
That's
no,
what
no, no.
20,000.
Also, we can't go back to that point of the design. This is vetted and it's included in the closing documents.
There were 3 forums associated with this for meetings, mostly attended by seniors, of course, because they were interested to go through all
Public forums open to the general public.
They were.
Tony's point, this is part of the condo docs now.
Yeah.
These
What?
are the condo docs right there.
This is, yeah, that floor plan. I mean, the interior walls, what we do inside the space itself is we have the ability to make changes to that, but it's not going to change very much from what we went through extensive alternative analysis. We looked at two or three different scale back options and even had those priced out as well. And I think we've accomplished that part. And back to, you know, a logical process. I think about like the school building, for instance. You know, when the voters are asked to increase, to approve a 2.5 override to pay for design. That doesn't commit them to the ultimate 90-something million cost of the project. That's how you go through. That is the logical process that we're going through. We're asking for $350 to get to the next phase. And then when you get through that phase and you have that additional public input and fine tune it, then you're going to the public to say, this is what we need for construction dollars.
The schools, I believe it was closer to $1 million on a $90 million project. And with this, we're talking 350,000 on maybe a $6 million project. So that 350 just seems really, really high to me.
Which is, just to be clear, so the school project will be voted upon for the full construction appropriation based on schematics.
Right.
Not construction documents.
And when the funds are appropriated for the construction project, they're also then appropriated for the full design.
And at what percent design is the school project at when you're asking for funds for the design phase?
30%.
So we are in a similar logical process, I would argue then.
Who in this room is going to explain to the voters that we told them, put up $1 million, that's all you have to put up?
I'll do it.
You'll do it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Messed up,
And you
okay?
have a.
It was,
Let's
we
move
had
on
an
that
error,
car.
okay? And my point is, we either own it and then move on, or just scrap it. And this is, I'm hearing scrap it.
That's,
That's not one thing.
Well, hiding behind something.
no, we are saying that what needs to be done, what do we need to spend in order to start the fundraising? And Andy seems to be indicating to me that the cost of the school is approved long before they have final construction documents. Is that correct? So we don't need final construction documents. So why can't we spend a lot less money to get where we need to be and not be pushing it to final construction documents?
I don't think it's gonna be a lot less to get
Well,
to
then we need to find
75,
somebody else.
to get to 75%.
Well, Andy, what's your opinion? If we're at 10% now and we're saying we're gonna 40%.
I honestly don't know what percent we're at. I mean, those look a lot like a schematic design.
This is it. This is.
So I think.
That's all there is.
This might be analogous to the level that we would expect the school project to be brought to. There could be some differences worth talking about, but generally, if this represents the will of the people for this particular project, then if this were the school project, we would put it in front of the voters as the cost to do full design and the cost for construction. That would be the package. That would be in the car.
Which is what we're,
What
the 350.
The design numbers, you're not talking about the construction.
Well, 350
You're giving the procurement method.
Yeah.
No, he's talking total project
Schools
cost.
you can bring in,
Yep, no, I'm not. I'm
and
not
this is gonna be
proposing a-
designed and built, which is a very different procurement method. So I just wanna be,
That's
clear on-
That's designed bid built.
I mean, we could go CMAR, but I would be very surprised if you got. I think the more predictable path is design bid build for this, which you do bring full design documents, then you go up for bidding, and then construction. I mean, it's like our.
We put out value engineering after that, right?
Yes.
We don't know what the value engineer, because we don't know what we need to come out.
Right,
Okay.
and I would say the facility planning committee has been able to weigh in. We really need to advance the design beyond, I would say 30%. To have a reasonable discussion with the facility planning committee, if that's what we're talking about. To value engineer, to make some design decisions that, have the ability to do anything when it comes to value engineering.
So let's look ahead then. Let's assume that we approve the money for full construction documents. And I don't know what time we get done. Is that fall?
Fall of 26.
So we would have.
December?
By September.
September, okay.
October, November.
October,
November.
And so at that point, then it's a decision, you'll have the opportunity for a more detailed cost estimate at that point. And we'll see, you know, what happens to the numbers. I guess, you know, typically what you would do is you continue cost estimating as you're doing your design. Somewhere between now and September, or say July, they take another snapshot of it and see what the cost is coming in at. And that would be an opportunity to value again. And
You
then
can manage that budget too,
Yeah.
and basically only spend of the 350, spend until you get to 75% design. And then not complete construction documents until you feel you're ready to get to that next step.
Can I ask a question? If we design this in pieces like that, will it end up costing more money?
Yes.
Well, I mean, the longer you wait, the longer you push it out, the more escalation happens for sure.
Right.
That's a fact.
Let me,
But-
if I.
Yeah.
We have had building projects fail in the past. And I am concerned that this one, if we get to the point where we've got ready to bid, and then we go to town meeting, the town meeting says, no.
We spent all this money.
And I think the value engineering part is a really important phase. I believe Pam said that it was significant in the memorial school.
Yeah, there were a lot of cuts made.
And it would be nice to have a feeling of where the town is between whatever design stage you're at for value engineering, to get a good feeling that the town is actually behind this. And if you don't get that feeling, then you have an idea of the scope of the value engineering you have to do.
So what, Ann, are you proposing? What about Sarah's thought to pass it over until fall town meeting?
I think that'd be a really bad look.
Yes,
I know it'd be a bad look,
I'm not prepared to do that.
And you're
I-
putting
I would-
the brakes on this
but I'm
until
trying to
then.
understand her comments.
Or you
because
come
I
up with
agree with
lower
her, but I wasn't quite
Right.
sure if Ann was advocating for moving forward with 350, moving forward with a lesser amount, or passing it over to fall. So I'm looking just for clarification.
Let me ask this question to guys. If we go for a lower amount, and then we design to that, then we're gonna go back for more money to design more. So we're gonna be asking again for more money.
So,
What about,
That's,
You're not gonna get to 100% design for less.
what if
than
the estimate had come in at $17 million?
What if it did?
What if it did, yeah.
Would you say, well, that's the price, we gotta pay it?
No,
No.
I'd say we have to look at it, but we can't go up or down in what we're building. We don't know what we're building.
I totally agree. And I would like,
but I think you're all missing the point, because the point is to fund the job until the fundraising can take it over. So, I mean, I would support if $50,000 got us to 30%, then another 150,000 should get us to a point where the understanding is that private funding will take it over. So I would support that as a change.
This is a not to exceed number. I mean, we're not gonna, was Chuck, not necessarily gonna spend the 350, right?
No, we can
we
spend
don't,
whatever scope we want.
we don't fund a wish number. Because you'll spend it. We don't do not to exceed numbers. We like
And this is the 350
numbers
we have.
supporting the work that needs to be done.
And there are those that think that the 350 is the number.
Well, there's a lot of stuff in here that I don't think we need at this point. This includes bidding. We're not to bidding.
It's preparing, it's getting ready to pay.
Documents, we're not there.
Yeah. The only way you're gonna find out what the number is is when you get the construction documents.
No, that's not true. They're going, part of it is getting to 30% design. That
I
makes sense.
suggest that we thought it was gonna be 16.5 for the Lincoln Street work until we went out to bid. What's the number?
Well, his we open so far for 11.
But plus everything else is coming around 15.5.
Yeah.
We don't know until we go out to bid. We just saved $1 million. Let's put that towards this.
Not yet, not yet. We really don't know until we put it in the ground.
Right. I don't know what the reluctance is here.
I can see the reluctance.
I don't know,
but,
I
mean,
just said, if we come up with some other numbers, say half of that or something, you get there. And then,
Have we asked
You're
that
building-
fundraiser what she thinks?
yeah,
That's a good
Susan's taken all of this and at some
That's a
point,
great
we'll hear
idea.
from her. Hear from her.
And I
Yeah, she's,
think it's important that people support it. And I think we need to come up with a number that people can support.
in particular, the finance committee.
Right.
Well,
I don't-
so there's two numbers though. There's the totality of the project, right? But then there's the number that we may be asking taxpayers for, which was previously zero.
It was
Okay?
zero.
It was zero, right?
And we're
So
gonna
there's,
go back.
there's two numbers, and the question I think on the table is, how do we start with the first number, the project total? And then I think we need it, personally, I would want a target, okay, for, private fundraising. Before we entertain thinking about how much taxation we would request,
So
if
you
any.
guys, can you speak to this?
The fundraising piece, yeah. Do you want?
I just want a procedural, would you mind if the planning board adjourned to another room, maybe with Michelle to understand this quantum? If there any changes?
I think you have been very patient.
I'm surprised you waited this long.
Time. So if we could just have the planning board adjourn to room. Seven. Okay, thank you.
Don't want you back.
Yeah.
Some sort of agreement.
Good, is this your business? Good. Then go back. Yeah, right, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Susan.
You were so fast to get out of here.
Everybody.
Need to go.
Okay.
Susan, I think Susan was coming.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Look at my grandson.
So, just to set a little context, right? We had a town meeting years ago, 24, approved $1 million, talked about the fact that we fundraised against this. The next step was there was a procurement of a grant, which paid for a feasibility study, which we looked at over the course from February through September 25. It looked specifically to a senior center. It had surveys, it had interviews, it had a professional view in terms of what was needed, this basically the scope, how to raise money for it, all the different things. There was a wealth screening, and the recommendation came back because back then we thought it was $2.5 to $3 million, and the professionals and the folks that did all the due diligence on this felt very comfortable with the amount of wealth that we have in this town, that we should be able to get to a $2.53 million number. So we were getting ready to launch, we're getting everything ready to go. We've got fundraiser advisors, people that are going out there and doing the asks, and we're putting together a whole program. The challenge is that the Mason deal didn't close yet. Okay, so we all live in this world of waiting for that. And that's not a criticism, it's the fact of where it was. So the funding people that we talked to, the potential donors say, well, I'm really not comfortable committing to anything if your deal hasn't closed. I'm really not committed to putting money in anything when I really don't know what it costs. So we go to the next level last year, 50,000, and did the next level of design, right? We got to the 10%. That's the piece that we brought forward this fall, and we went through a lot of process with the architects. We did have open meetings, whether people knew or not, but they were there. We got a lot of input. There were renderings. There was a lot of work that was done. That came back. We did some initial feeling of what that would look like in terms of cost. In December, we got the scary news that what we thought was 2.5 was now going up, 2.5 to 3 was going up to 6.
And the difference was, as I call it in my language, it was a fully loaded project when we looked at the $6 million number. It wasn't just the construction costs, and I don't know what built the 2.5 or 3, honestly, but we knew that was the target that we started with. So with cost escalations, all of the things that are going on, we know it's happening everywhere. We got to that number and we stopped because we're not going to go back to fundraising people and say, oh, by the way, we now need double of what we're looking for. So we came back and looked at the process and said, what other things can we do? Can we cut back? What's the way, how can we value engineer this to make it look a little bit more palatable? Came up with 3 more options, presented those back to the select board in February of this year, and came up and realized at that point that the differential between the 3 options wasn't that great, but the fact that it really couldn't be supported just for the seniors, that if we expanded the use for the full community, being in fact that the community center now is sort of down by the tracks quiet, that we could actually have a very lovely, engaging community space, which will be a revenue producer. There will be opportunities to bring people in and do parties and revenue produce. Parks and Rec can run programs there outside of the senior center. But what is the core structure of this is a place for our people 60 and above, which is the number they're looking at, 35% of our population, which is growing, to have a place to call home. And if you look at the current programming of the Council on Aging, they do a damn good job getting things done with nothing. They've got buses and they've got the church. And, you know, it's a small group that they serve, but there's a lot of other things that can happen here. So when I look at this from a fundraising perspective and sort of building the ask and what we're talking about, it isn't just about a place for seniors. It's about an investment back to our community. And I know we all agree with this, so that's not the point. The devil is in the details of how do you get from A to B. And we've been waiting a very long time, this entire community, for having this topic come up. And I just personally think at this point, for the fundraisers, and I don't remember who made the comment, but it's absolutely true. They want to see, what is our leadership saying about this? How is our leadership discussing this? Are they supporting it? Yes, but how are they supporting it? Have they done as much homework and availability of what we've given them in terms of information? If there's more information needed, let's get to them. But let's have the debate with the voters that will make the decision. And I think what I've experienced in my 30 years or whatever it is on town meeting here, we usually get to the right answer at town meeting. I mean, I honestly do believe that when we go through the process, we get to the right answer. But I think as a leadership team between the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen and the Select Board, there has to be guidance and leadership here. And I really think it's important that these discussions happen right now because everybody needs to be heard. But I think the importance is getting to a conclusion that can move this forward. I know the seniors in my heart. I go to the meetings all the time. I listen to what they say and they're crestfallen when they hear that there's another delay or there's a problem and there's something that's happening. They feel like they've done a lot for the school district and the town over time. They just want their little piece of this. So I can't answer your question in terms of what should happen next. I know if I was running the show, I would certainly want to move forward with this and say, let's get to whether it's a up to 350, let's get 70% of the design, whatever we need. We need a number to fundraise. 3 things I needed. 1, the deal to be closed. 2, what it's going to cost. And 3, does the town support this? Those are the 3 key messages that are needed for successful fundraising. And we don't have that. We have 1, but we don't have the other 2 yet. So
Susan, you're a great communicator. You're very good. If you made that speech to fill in the blank, there are 100 mega millionaires across the water over here. If you could get one and give that whole speech and say, come on,
yeah,
I need you.
we have. Okay, so I'm just to be clear, we have done some quiet conversation. Right. And the feedback has been consistent with, we want to see what the town is willing to step up to, understanding, knowing full well. I think it was look at Powder House. That money was raised in
That
a
was
month
raised
or
in
two.
like 3 weeks.
Yeah, right, and
3
it was what, almost $2 million or whatever it was?
Yeah,
So we know we have the capacity, right? But I think there's a reluctance to understanding to move that forward without the political will.
is it possible that there's a flaw in all this?
Of course. What would be the flaw, Doris?
Well, that we don't have a mission statement, we don't have a compelling need. And I'm not saying that this isn't compelling, I'm sure it is, but is it possible that we just haven't coalesced this in a way that, because most of these guys that, they started companies, they got all this cash, they're whatever, I mean, they're imaginative.
Yeah.
They're innovative, they take what you say or what I say, and then they make it even better. That's their skill.
Well, and we do have a case. We do have all the whole feasibility study was built around building this case. It was doing all of that. We've got the case statements. We've got everything we need to do. We've had to shift and literally pivot from a senior center to a community center because it doesn't make sense to spend X number of dollars on just a small population.
Yeah.
So I think that there's been a lot of give and take. There is a tremendous amount of communications that are built behind all of this. I mean, I've been sitting and writing, everything sort of sits behind it now. And I've got some really great people who are out there ready to communicate this and make those asks happen. And the early asks have been, I want to see if it closes. I want to see what the leadership has to say. And I want to make sure that the town is supporting and so forth.
So if I may ask, who was prepared to speak at town meeting?
Well, in terms of what
any of the people that you just mentioned?
well, you know what, so I've certainly said to people, anybody I've talked to, I said, I can't force them, but I've asked them to. I said, I'm hoping that you will stand up at town meeting and speak. I know John's going to speak on behalf of that article, and I'm assuming Brian and other people will step up. I'm hoping some folks from the Masons will step up and speak to that. Council on Aging folks, people in the general population. I mean, we've been reaching out and trying to educate as best as we can with this, but to the point it closed 10 days ago, right? So we're all in the same boat. I feel your pain, believe me. But I think that the compelling issue here is we all want this to happen. Maury, to your point, we've been waiting. I mean, 8 years, 10 years. When I was on the select board, we were negotiating with Masons the first time. I mean, it's been going on. It took us 30 years to get a regional school district and a school built. I mean, things do move at somewhat of a glacial pace, but at some point you have to look at the reality and say, wait a second, this is getting more expensive every minute we waste. And we're not wasting, but every minute we wait, it gets more expensive, more expensive, more expensive. So how do we minimize that, value engineer it, respond to our constituents? And like I said, the going to the community side of this is great because we're opening the door up for a lot of other usage. It's not just seniors at this point, it will be the whole community. So, I think we're prepared. I've got some great fundraising advisors who can speak this and know how to do it and make the asks happen. And I'm very confident that we can raise the money. I don't think we can raise $7 million. I'll be really honest with
Yeah,
that.
that was gonna be my question. If we know you can raise the money, but what do you think you can raise?
Well, I mean, I think.
But because in fairness, when you asked the question previously, it was just for a senior center, right?
Right.
So if it's not just a senior, is there the potential to raise more?
I don't know. I mean, it would logically, the step would say yes. And how good are we about asking for money and who can we target on it? I mean, opening the doors up and getting to a larger group of donor base, we might be able to do that. But I can't get a feel because it's like the chicken and egg, right? Everybody wants some answer first before the next step happens. So there's just a reluctance. So all I'm saying is put a stake in the ground. Put a stake in the ground for us. Give us a chance to go do the work that we want to do here. And whatever that may be, and I trust all of you. I mean, you've done a great job. All of you do. It's for years and years you've been running this town very efficiently. So just put a stake in the ground. Let us get some work done and let's move forward. I mean, that's what has to happen right now.
If I can offer somewhat of a compromise, I think that we'd be comfortable with, getting to 75% design, not going all the way to construction documents. However, I'm hesitant to come up with the correct dollar amount that gets us there in this room without understanding that. So if there's a, an agreement to authorize the 350, but some sort of agreement in this room that we're gonna manage that budget in a way that we stop spending money of that, stop spending down that 350 once we get to 75% design, I'd be more comfortable with something like that. I'm just nervous about reducing the budget in this room without having that dollar figure in front of us and underfunding our ability to get to 75% design.
I'm reluctant to approve 350 on a basis of, trust me, we won't spend it. I'm sorry, but if you look at town government, we have a budget and maybe it's not spent over here, but we move it over here and the end of each year, we're spending, how many did we have last year? We're moving money so that they found a way to spend everything, almost everything that was in the budget. And I just look at this proposal and a good half of it is, it's not stuff we're looking for. Bidding, construction documents. Yeah, Andy.
I guess, if I pull back for a second, the proposed fee for the design is not necessarily the thing that scares me. I think it's a reasonable fee, for the project. To some degree, I think what I and the committee are a little bit reacting to is just a change in approach with that kind of came very quickly down the pike, and that was perhaps a result of just how long it took to get to where they got to get to those estimates. So in the back of our minds, we have things like the ramp in our head. We have examples of things that can go wrong, and nobody wants that, and I don't believe that has to be the outcome. So I think for my part, I would say I could reconcile with the deal that's being proposed, given that, again, I think it's I do think it's a reasonable fee for the go forward. My concern, or what I would want to have some agreement on, is the way in which that design gets executed. I would want that interim step and just make sure that, whatever the 7 million additional doesn't turn into a larger number. And there's some way of managing to the budget. Because 3 became 6 or 7, and
One started at 1.
Yes.
Started
at 1.
Now,
And we're now at between $1,000 and $1,200 per square foot.
I don't think that's true.
I think it is. If you do the,
Yeah,
650.
it's 7,000 square feet.
7,200 square feet.
Yeah, 7 million. It's almost 1,000 a square foot.
Yeah.
I would beg to differ.
Okay. It's just division.
Well, again, that's based on a very, very preliminary, okay?
Yeah.
And I don't know how they got there other than, we've got some things in there, okay, let's throw a number here. I know that when I'm pricing something up budgetary, and I've did this before, I'm always high. Because I don't know I know what I don't know, and I'm gonna make sure I cover my ass. And it's easier to come down on pricing than if you hear $7 million, and then we come down at $5 million, they're thrilled. If I come in at $5 million and now it's up at $7 million, we're screwed. So it's always at this level, everything's always very, very high.
Agree.
Okay.
I agree.
And that's what what we're trying to do is narrow this down. Then we have to look at what do the needs and I'll use Kathy's needs and wants. All right. Is the kitchen too big? All right. Can we get by without the big wraparound deck for right now? And maybe add that on later. Okay. These are things that we can't determine until we get an accurate pricing. And then when we go out to bid, give me an add all, deduct on this, what's this value? And that's when the value engineering happens, is once someone sees the takeoff and the pricing and each of the trades come in. And we can't get there until spend a little bit of money. Bear in mind that when we first started talking about, when we floated the idea of borrowing money 2 years ago, that was to kickstart this thing as opposed to waiting for fundraising. All right, and then we were gonna pay it back. We were gonna borrow the money and pay it back through fundraising. Okay, so the intent has always been, even these soft costs to pay back that money was just a short-term loan that we paid off through fundraising. We don't know how much that fundraising is gonna be, but we gotta get started somewhere. And I don't think that, and I hear it's town money, okay, but we're not asking the voters to approve money, I mean, a tax increase or different their pockets.
Yeah, really, that's not a good.
Okay, we spent 500,000, last time we spent this much money out of that account was what, 4 years ago?
We weren't even given the information that there was that much money in the account to know that we had it to spend.
You actually don't have it to spend,
Well, you do for recreational programs.
but it has to come from.
That's a separate.
I mean, it's a minor detail, but like every 8 or 9 years, we have to deal with the turf at Coach Ed Field.
Mhm.
That's about an 850 grand hit. So we go to the taxpayers for that, or we pull it out of the revolving fund. So, you know, no money is free here. It's just how we use it, you know, at the end of the day.
So I'll tell you what would make me more comfortable, because I've always been a little uncomfortable with this myself. I want a timeline. I want commitments, okay? So if we go forward with this, you know, what percent design is gonna be done by when? And when are we gonna get, I presume that would include a budget, you know, an estimate for the entire project, right? But included in that number is how much do we expect the fundraising target to be? Okay, because that's the only way we're gonna know what we're really asking the town for. So I want a timeline as to when we're going to have that information, what the decision is gonna be on the next step, when it's gonna happen, and most importantly, who is gonna make the decision. I want a full timeline, you know,
That's a little difficult.
it's not.
It's Thursday.
No, I'm
We're
just
having a
saying,
vote on Monday.
it's not. So in terms of,
Well, I think that's in line with what we've talked about.
I'm asking,
This-
there's a
this
lot of
would-
verbal stuff. I want something on paper.
This, as far as when we get an updated cost estimate
Yes,
at 75% design, say, we're talking about October.
I understand that.
November.
Yes, I understand. that.
And then we've always kind of said that we would not be going to town meeting for construction dollars until we understand
I understand.
where fundraising is. So it's not really quite, you have to raise this
I
amount
understand.
by this date. It's more of until the fundraising gets to a certain point and that delta is a certain point, depending on what else is on the
I
table.
understand. What I'm saying is, and I'm frustrated because I used to do this for a living too, okay? Project management, you know, $85 million programs. I get it. Yes, you can do what I'm asking, okay, by Monday, okay? Because they have the information. I'm just asking it to be, you said to put a stake in the ground. I'm asking the people to put a stake in the ground so then leadership can support that. I'm not going to recommend approving something that is too fuzzy from a schedule standpoint and a commitment standpoint. You want commitment from me? I want commitment from the people who are gonna do the work. Oh, and I'm looking at DPW, town administrator, fundraiser, okay? That's who I'm looking at. Because this is frustrating. This is all, I don't want to use the term only $7 million, but you can do this stuff, okay? Put a timeline together, okay? Because it's a communication tool, and I think where we lost some of the momentum is because we didn't think to bring in FinCom early enough into the conversations. You know, my bad, you know, everybody's bad here, okay? That I think we like I said, and Sarah articulated it again. They went through a whole capital planning process. This really wasn't, you know, it wasn't in there. It wasn't in the 25-year plan or 30-year plan, whatever we have. We're kind of throwing something in there. We want to move fast, all good, but let's respect the fact that, you know, this is not normally how we would do this.
I only haven't been here since July.
Condolences.
I don't completely agree. I don't want to spend a ton of time like arguing back and forth about that. I think that, this project wasn't on the capital plan because at the time that the capital plan was most recently developed, it wasn't perceived that there was gonna be town money.
I agree.
Disagree with that, Tony.
Yeah.
This price came in on December 15th, 2025, which was prior to the start of this budget cycle. And it was not added to the capital plan in this budget cycle like it should have been. Because you knew when that price came in that they weren't gonna be able to
I was
come up
thinking it
with.
was
The select board did not until February
February,
2nd.
Sarah. We didn't discuss it until.
And,
at the
and,
select
and
board.
actually,
I'm saying the price was there.
It didn't come to us.
And actually, the Council on Aging facility was included in the first draft of the capital request submitted to the FinCom back in November. But at the time, we didn't feel we had so much capital at that point, and asking for construction dollars was way too early, so we ended up moving it off. And then we kept going with the process, and it was early February that we went to the select board with the updated cost estimates and discussion about scale back options and things of that nature. Once the select board made a decision, we had to then, talk about that with the Masons, and then we brought it to the FinCom on March 18th. So and the harbor, I look at like the harbor master office, that's not on the capital plan either, but it's, in the,
Very low price.
but it's out there, and that's because it's, grant funded, right? So once this was determined to exceed the feasibility of fundraising, that's when it really became and introduced into that formal.
100% agree, but I think we collectively, I'm not putting this on you, Tony. Collectively, we should have run to FinCom and said, hey, guess what?
And we did, I think we did, I mean, from
I guess I'm
a
not.
month, it was a month
hearing that
apart.
from them.
Well,
But with what number? Because you don't know what that number is. You don't
well,
know
with
whether it's 2 million.
the same
$6
presentation
million, yeah.
that we gave
But-
the select board February, we
Right,
gave to
okay.
the FinCom in March.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, I don't necessarily find recall that it was March versus January. I mean, necessarily it's
Right.
the December 15th budget, which probably drew some reaction from those that were directly involved with that effort, like, oh my gosh, it's $7 million or $6 million. What do? How do we approach this? It's more than fundraise. The point is that might not have been enough time to fully think this out in a way that it could be presented at this particular annual town meeting versus the following. I guess that's. But we are where we are.
So just a statement of just general clarification. My sense is you're concerned about our perspective on this. We want this community center. The reason we're paid the big bucks here is to think about financial issues,
More than us.
how the town approaches financial issues. And that's it's raising red flags. And so
As it
deep
should.
in our hearts,
Yeah.
we all want this. I will say we've been, we meet every single week through the winter, and we ask Tony and we've asked Greg, what's happening with the community center? What's happening with the Central Street Dam? What's happening with the 111F? It just goes on and on. It's like, where's the checkpoint? And we've been getting the same answer up until really recently, and it's a timing problem. It's great, it's gone over the hill, but it was just like a week or two ago. And that's part of our concern here, is on the process side. We're just like, okay, this is opened up, but do you have all the rest of the ducks in a row here? And that's what we're struggling with, frankly, so.
Well, I mean, I feel like it was, I only feel the need to correct you just because we are, talking about timeline. It was March, and at that time, the FinCom made it clear. We're not gonna consider recommending this until this property is closed on.
We had two requirements.
Yeah.
One, it was closed, and the other was to have some letters of commitment. The property was closed a few days ago. We've never seen any letters of commitment. So that we didn't get both pieces of what we asked for. And that was, March 19th, when it was raised to us, was basically when we concluded the budget process. I mean, I think our last budget thing is from March,
On the book,
it, yeah. So that's a challenge.
And to your point, Kathy, and to your point, Sarah, it's a little bit of a wiggly situation in terms of letters of commitment. We know how this runs with fundraising, so forth and so on. So one thing I can commit to is if we know, and we have town meeting on Monday, and we move forward with whatever decision happens, and if it's moving in the direction of fundraising, we're ready to go. And we're running a parallel process here. It's not waiting for the design money or the idea to understand what it's going to cost before we start the ask. We're already doing that. So by the fall, October, November, what we're targeting for relative to a number, right, at this design number, we will have a number of fundraising. I will feel good about that. And we will have letters of commitment because we've got those vetted. We're working with ECCF to make sure that those are signed. No money will be transferred to anything until the project is approved and ready to go.
Right.
But we can get letters of commitment, and we are working on that. And we know we have basically from April through October to get what that number looks like. So I'm ready to put the stake in the ground on that.
And right now, you go out there and work with this $6 to $7 million number.
We've been talking, yeah, I mean, we've been talking about it.
Some of
in
these people
general.
already know that,
But
and
they do, and they know that that's not realistic, but I think for the larger investor, or
We don't know.
it may be realistic, but the people that want to step forward are doing it because they're doing it because they believe in the community. They want to support it, they want to understand it, but they also are fiscally responsible people. They look at business the way they look at it, they want to understand it's been vetted, and they want to understand to the best of the ability, what am I paying for? And what am I contributing to? So we can certainly move in a general direction, but it's a much stronger story to say we're working on the documents. We're going to have a better sense in our parallel process of what the costs are going to be. In addition to that, we know generally we're going to run in this direction. So how much are you willing to put in? This has got to be sort of a give and take, right, between both.
So from a timeline standpoint, what I heard was both project and fundraising estimates will be available before the November town meeting.
Should be. I mean, if you want to set the target on that, yeah.
I'm comfortable doing anything without target dates. It's just in my DNA.
Well, it's what we, it's the
And
working.
and
it's the
understand
working
plans can
parts that we have.
change, but we have to set target dates. So, all right.
As
so-
far as the work with Olson, that's what we were targeting.
Okay, and
And
so,
suggest that we decrease the amount of money asked for to 150,000. When we ask for that money, we explain at town meeting that it could cost 6 million, and we expect that a portion of it will need to be paid by the taxpayers.
So how far does 150,000 get us in design?
Well, when I look at this, what was presented to us, two big things were construction documents and bidding. We're taking those off.
So how much was that worth?
I don't know, but they're,
25 grand.
Well,
30 grand.
why don't
Hard work. Yeah, I mean.
I'm just trying to realistically, if you're gonna put a number out there, what is that number include?
We can't really prove random numbers either. That you made up.
oh, you don't like my number? I mean,
Well, I could be totally right, but.
you want a real number, you want a realistic
they
number.
have the whole design, they have the design done.
Don't have these, they're telling me they don't have
We
these.
had all the mechanicals done, we had, good price.
We have lines on a paper, we have 10% plans,
Yeah.
that board is what we've shown, we have done no vetting beyond. Moving squares around for space layout on a sheet of paper. There's been nothing further in terms of design development to develop any sort of, solid cost estimate, MEP. I think even going a bit philosophically, like we need to decide, are we going for lowest capital cost? So basically doing, building code, meeting building code. Or are we going to look at a more progressive, more like 30-year cost, life cycle cost analysis, where maybe the capital cost is slightly higher, but in the long term, we save a ton of money because we put solar that pays, for itself in a few years, or we do other, we do more insulation or other things that would reduce the 30-year life cycle cost, but ultimately has a higher upfront cost. So I think those are things we would want to evaluate, at least I would want to evaluate during the design process to make sure that we are making solid, sound decisions for the life of this building. So I think that's a big part of it going forward. And so we just have to do all the groundwork to get us there. I have put together a bit of a schedule. This is assuming a July 1st start date for when we can get funds to execute a contract for Olson Lewis. Basically taking it from 10% to 30%. I have from basically July and August. I have included placeholders for a presentation to the Facilities Planning Committee, because I think we need to define a lot of those early goals and what we're actually designing the building design standards. We'll have a stakeholder, workshop for the community at large to start getting some more of the, finer details on what we've come up with already in this plan. I believe we're gonna need a ZBA renewal. So we'll have to do that. And then I have also a select board presentation included. Starting September, we go from 30% to 75% design between September and November 15th. We will need site plan review by planning board. We may need conservation approval depending on the impact of the landscape architecture and how far we get in and what we do there. We're kind of right on that line. And then this is where I have a 75% cost estimate, basically what they define as a class 2. So kind of a narrow band, much narrower band on the plus minus on a cost estimate.
And that's by November.
And that's by November 15th. I sent a clip over to John Harden this afternoon, and he, thought that was doable.
So why aren't we allocating the amount of money at this town meeting to get us to that November 15th? And then we have the opportunity, once we got things a little more definitive, to look for more money in a November town meeting. We don't need to do it.
I think we'd be okay with that. We
Do
just
that.
don't know. It's just hard to say in this room what that dollar number.
Yeah, what is 75%? How much does 75% cost?
We didn't break it down in that manner. I would have to talk to John to get a better handle on what he feels is an appropriate number to get us to that 75%, in mid-November. I think that's looking at, he's gonna have to talk to some of the subcontractors, sub-consultants will need to do more of the full scope of their work, others not so much. So I wouldn't want to take a guess at that number right now, but I'm sure I can talk to him tomorrow and try to come up with a more palatable number for getting us to 75%.
I was gonna suggest $100,000. Sarah suggests 150. I didn't hear you.
At this rate, we're gonna owe you 20,000.
No, I don't think so. Anyway, so I could go with 150. And I think if we were to tell Olson Lewis, that's what we got. and this is what you gotta do, and this is the time by which you have to have it done.
Doesn't work that.
I've done it plenty.
You wanna be the front man to do it? I
No.
mean,
Well, he's gonna tell the town about the
Somebody called
4
it
million.
came up and we thought it was gonna be $1 million or $2 million, okay? And that was that was what?
No, we put up 1 million, and then now you start
And
talking.
we said that the rest, we were looking at $2 million, that was 3 years ago, okay? And that we felt comfortable that we could do that fundraising. Prices have escalated, costs have escalated, construction costs have escalated, we were wrong. Okay?
plus we
Accurate.
added a
Okay.
community center.
And we're adding the community center and town offices. Let's not forget the fact that, what was the value of it? Remember when we were looking at those options? We had
The 1 million was back in 2020, just to set the.
Yeah.
Right,
record
I think that's when Greg saw that $1 million, he just went to $2 million 3 years later, as that was started this 3 years ago. Right, and we had different looks at the, there were 3 different options, but one didn't include municipal offices.
Correct. Yeah, we looked at 3 different alternatives. We looked
So
at.
now we're adding municipal offices, which the town.
So I think that what the story you're suggesting is once we realized the costs had escalated, we sought ways to increase the utilization of the building, because an empty building is an expensive building, right? So in order, because we haven't figured out a way to cut those costs yet,
Mhm.
we can certainly do things, take actions to increase the utilization. Moving people out who are in the basement, gonna get flooded out anyway, right? Add in some programming from Parks and Rec that will allow revenue to help pay for the building, right? That's what we did.
Yeah.
Okay, and guess what? You know, who also might be interested in using some of the space? Other town the library has always been looking for more space to run programs. Guess what? We could approach the library trustees and say, hey, you want to help us with the fundraising? Okay, so by expanding the utilization and increasing the utilization of the building, we also increase the likelihood that fundraising can raise more.
And there's no expectation that
That's
we.
how I'm looking at it.
Doing fundraising for municipal offices.
You're not gonna get fundraising from municipal
I
offices.
agree, I totally agree.
But you're gonna get fundraising for other.
That's how we've been able to expand the use of the building and feel more comfortable asking for money from the town. We just don't know how much money that's gonna be.
Yeah.
To
and
that
that-
price point, Weston and Sampson provide us, I think I shared this with all of you, a average cost per square foot and how it's climbed over DPW projects. In 2020, that was $376. In 2025, that's gone up to $809 per square foot on average.
So there you go. So,
That's-
and
that's
if-
the-
And then if we wait for another 2 years, another year, it could be $1,000.
But we
Well,
could
you
say
want-
that about every single project in
Yeah.
town, and the fact of the matter is, we don't have the money.
Everything.
We have a student now,
We don't have the money to spend for every
So I
project.
think it helps explain,
explaining how these costs have escalated.
yes.
People are still not gonna like it.
Go ahead, Andy.
If we were, because we're wrestling with this lesser amount to get us to 75% of the real, that has Olson and Lewis. But if we were to alter the language in the article, if that's even possible at this stage. like,
We
what-
can
what are the
move
mechanics?
Yeah, you can always amend.
You can always amend it.
You- On the floor,
Floor.
in the motion, it can be, the amount can be changed.
Yeah.
The select board doesn't,
Because I could get behind the idea of authorizing sufficient design funds to bring us to 75% for a rational estimate. That also includes a midway stopping point of 30% to also do an evaluation of, scope versus budget. To get us to a rational number by the fall.
so the select board doesn't have, you have a meeting posted for Monday, the select board does not. As far as voting on a recommendation tonight, the select board would have to make their vote tonight. And I guess the FinCom could wait until we get that number from John Harden and make a decision Monday to a lesser amount.
Is it realistic? We're definitely gonna have that number?
No,
By Monday,
Yeah, by Monday.
I think we should be, I think John should be able to give that.
Yeah, we're looking for an estimate from him. We're not looking for figures.
Yeah,
you're looking at 4 months worth of work.
If they can give it, if
I-
they give us
again,
that estimate, we're dealing
I
with
don't
more.
think it's gonna be, I don't think it's gonna be significantly less.
Right, this is what I'm thinking. What if they come back at 300,000? Is that gonna do anything for you? Right, that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So
So what do we do?
I guess each board's
Well,
gonna make its
I
own
was-
decision. I mean, that's,
I-
fair. I mean, if we disagree, we disagree.
Yeah, I'm willing to recommend 150,000.
We go to two,
I would second that motion.
we get that up to two?
Please.
Thanks, Dean.
You have the opportunity to wait until we get an answer from
I
John.
don't wanna wait.
No, because that puts you in a difficult position if you don't like the number.
Right.
Right, and I mean, we as a town should come up with the amount of money we're willing to spend between now and November. We should not be having John Harden dictate to us how much we should spend.
Gar, I like two.
We go
I
to,
mean, we're pulling numbers out of thin air.
well, to be clear,
Yeah.
John Hart
Shouldn't be how we make a decision.
particularly responded to an RFQ that we put on the street. Like, this is not like we just picked them because they're our favorite. They were the responsive, most attractive bidder on this based on qualifications and price at the time that we did that. So there is, as Nate just pointed out, a schedule and a lot of other things. We have a prescriptive process that we have to follow in the municipal world on these projects, and that's what we're following. So I don't think that's out of line at all. I
But
think
that's-
that's how we get to this point is that we are following a very prescriptive
That's not
process.
what I'm saying, Chuck. I'm saying if we say we have 150,000 now we're willing to spend,
What can you do for us?
you, Olson Lewis, what can you do for the 150,000?
Right. It's
But
a-
I
What
don't-
you can do, and then if we need more money in November, we have the opportunity to put more money
And
at it.
listen, that's your call and that's your decision. I think I need
So,
to say.
so it's a way,
I don't-
it's a good technique for controlling spending. It's an absolute, when you get into these
It's
huge
a great one for
projects,
controlling spending. It's a bad one for predicting how the rest of the project is gonna go.
it depends. We haven't heard what they can give us for the 150 yet.
Well, all right,
Again,
so, but I don't think it's realistic to get to 75% at half the money. I mean, that's not a realistic
But
approach.
maybe it doesn't get to 75%.
I'm
Maybe
hearing 75%. That's what I heard.
30%.
We already said we want 75%.
No, well, just to be clear, again, the school projects, what that meant, what the Essex Elementary School project is gonna, when it comes before town meeting, that is going to be based on an estimate that's on a 30% design. That's what gets voted upon to appropriate the money for that.
That's a scary
And that-
thought of
and that
$90
project-
million, man.
Well, I have a big thought. I've had my hand up for a while. But a big elephant in the room seems to be, now that we're opening this to a community center, is there a certain percentage that the town is willing to fund versus private fundraising? I mean, because that seems to be the,
We're not there yet.
Maybe
Jim.
get there.
right, well,
We're not there yet. We
So-
we won't get there until we have a price for a project and we bring it before town meeting. And can tell
I
them what the
understand.
cost of the project is and how much is being donated. So it's premature to discuss that tonight.
okay,
I mean, they talk about design development, 30% of design. Which is including coordinating electrical, mechanical, plumbing, fire protection, et cetera. I mean, that seems to me 30% as a stepping point. Isn't that bad? They only have 4 months to work on before November because they can't start till July 1st when the money's there.
Well, they can start, they just can't invoice us. Once the money's approved.
I just think it's important to have the board support it.
Yeah, it is
I think it's very important.
critical.
You just could be setting yourself up for a scenario in November or whenever we get to that point that you're looking at a cost estimate based on less information that has a wider or less confidence in that cost estimate.
Right, so, but they should, as
Move
part,
back to where we are today.
well, that's correct though, but not exactly back where we are, because we're only at 10% design, right? So when you go to that next level, what I would expect them to have is some kind of a risk register that's itemized or costed out, so you would know, you know, what's the, what did you call it earlier, Nate? What's the window, how narrow it is?
Oh.
The,
Yeah.
I-
Spread.
Yeah, the spread, okay? Confidence level, I'll say, that's usually some type of
Yeah, that's the tech.
there's usually some
Your
type of
bookie says.
confidence level in the estimate, right? So you know how far off you are. And so let's say that number is $2 million and you got a 50% confidence level, you know, that's not ideal, right? But what we would want to ask is for 150, let's say we use that as a number, what type of confidence level can you get it? What level of design can you get us and what confidence level, right? That should give us the overall boundaries of what this thing can cost. You just do the math. So,
Can I
Yeah.
ask relative to
Yeah.
that, the schedule you were referencing earlier? you know, when did they get to 30%?
So I have them by September.
Okay, because technically, going to the next step to the 75% figure in November doesn't leave us a lot of time.
Right.
Getting to wrestle that together, I think.
30% in
September is a-
September.
A good amount of time
Yep.
to kind of think
Yep.
about that, talk about it, position it, and represent.
Yeah, I agree.
So the challenge is to figure out how much 30% is, or come up with a number that we think will cover that
Or, or.
right now.
Yeah, I mean, the fees based on time, hours spent, over the course of the schedule, and so 30% design, we could probably wrestle a number, but I'd rather give John Harden the opportunity to actually, say what that is. But I don't think it will be too far off from some of the numbers we're talking about, the 150 here.
Well, that's what I think, that's what I hear we have to do. We have to come up with a number tonight.
Well, we're
That's-
not gonna come up with a number tonight if we have to ask John Hart.
Yeah, but then we have to have one that we have to.
Yeah.
Well, Harden, if it's over that, what can we get for this?
Yeah, but give us what this could.
Yeah. But we rely on you and Nate to say, this is what an intelligent number is. Because we have to come up with a number tonight. I understand we can't really wait.
I'll say in the world of, school design, most firms that do, win those projects to bring them up to schematic design, they operate at a loss to get to that point. And that I'm not professing that's an approach for Olson and Lewis, but I'll say that's what happens, and then they recoup during full design.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, no, that's
We've
right.
all done that.
Is that the way you work, Brian?
There were times when back in the day, when I was doing tenant work, I was going really, really tight on the base building.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, for the promise of more,
Make it
right?
up.
Change orders.
There you go.
More tenants. Yeah.
That too. Okay. So,
I will say also, just talk about the market at large. Architectural firms are a lot less busy today than they were 2 years ago. There's a lot less confidence about the economy today.
You're supposed to have my daughter's going to college for architecture.
Graduating.
But,
Inundated with price requests.
Are you?
I'm busy.
Well, you're especially good, so you're especially good.
all right, so where are we? Are we all comfortable with 150?
Make up numbers, but no doubt. First of all, the process is a problem in the first place. It's a big problem. From day one until now. And if we start making up numbers, we're just making it worse. It just gets worse and worse.
Well, we're setting a number that we're willing
Setting a
to
target.
have expended on the project.
Subject to.
That we just made up.
Well, I'm looking for the,
Well, when I
Oh,
do
well, that
projects,
happens tomorrow.
I have a certain number I'm willing to spend on it.
right.
You know what you're getting, right? We're
No.
still kind of not sure we're getting.
What I'm willing to spend.
And you're gonna get with that paper.
Yeah.
But I think the key here is we're putting a number in
from our judgment, we feel better with. We have another track at this in November.
Right.
So this isn't just like an open runway. And I think there's time for fundraising to start happening, for community involvement to start getting. I like it because it's less, and I feel like there's more process checkpoints along the way.
We have a
That gives me
timeline,
a
we
little
have a
more
timeline and checkpoints.
I'd rather we restate the whole project now. Yeah, and look, this changed a lot. Here's a new deal, here's why we did this, here's the new deal. And now there's town money involved, a significant amount of town money involved, where that's the first time I've heard that's a thing. We don't know what that's gonna be. So maybe the town doesn't wanna spend, I don't know how many million dollars. So this has changed dramatically. We can go back in town and say, look, this is a whole new deal. You guys wanna do this? It's no longer just a senior center, it's a community center, it's a town office. Feel like the other town offices that are here.
Have one meeting, please.
That's what I would go back and say, look, change the run. And now our new plan is do this and this and this.
Hey, 150 now.
I think one of the questions that we haven't really asked, but will certainly come up on town meeting floor, is what is the trigger point for donations, at which point the town says we'll backfill the balance? So if this is a $6 million project and Susan's able to go out and raise 1.5 million, will the town step up and do 4.5 or 5, or will they wait?
So
Or
that's
will
why,
they scale the project back? And I'm
No,
not,
I agree with
that's a question that somebody's gonna be asking in
that's,
about.
but
4
that's
days.
what that's why I asked for the timeline.
That's what I'll
Because
have in November.
that's what I'm expecting in November,
Right.
right? I asked, what is the target? So then we can tell the town, look, this is what we can fundraise, and then that'll give FinCom an opportunity to say, oof.
Right.
Maybe we can't afford this project, or here's how we move forward, but that's why I asked that
I should
question.
say, to that point, which is fair. If you're only funding, if you're picking 150 out of the air and you're limiting the amount of design work that you do now, the cost estimate that you have in November that you're using to make an informed decision at that checkpoint is less confident because it's based on less of a design. So that's why we were trying to do this, to get as confident as a cost estimate in November as possible, so you can make that.
But I
$700,000.
I think.
Will we be really sure of ourselves?
I think it would give us enough, 150 will give us enough to know whether we need to walk away from the project or whether we can afford to do it.
I think.
Based on what? Like, how do you get there?
Because you're gonna have a better cost estimate.
But you're not
At
gonna have
30%?
Yeah,
He's saying that's what they do in the school building.
We're gonna be making that decision for
Making a
$90
decision on
million
that in school, and
project.
that's the number we're gonna be dealing with.
there are different, there are designs that based on what the state requires and minimums and, okay, so that helps with the design. Right now, we don't know what we don't know what we don't know. Okay,
Right,
And I
MSBA is gonna
and I
make
think
you
that-
build to a certain.
and to be as graphic, I don't wanna half-ass this thing. Okay, and I think that we've asked, our architects have said, or we've said 350, we have to respect that that's the number that they feel comfortable with, that we can go out to bid with. Or-
They're giving us a scope that we don't need at this point,
Right,
Brian.
that's what I
That's
hear.
the difference.
That is the
And I think
difference.
I heard Nate say that it's about $25,000.
I think
Going back from bid documents to,
Bidding is probably about 20,000. They have a spec consultant for 10, so.
so that sounds like 300.
Right.
No, okay.
So I'd like to say that, Olson Lewis is a pretty small firm, and 150,000 would be about 15 man months worth of work, or person months. So seems like enough to get it to the next level to me.
Well, I'm not gonna pretend to know their business.
Also 11 consultants, sub-consultants, from MEP to civil site, landscape architecture, structural engineers, kitchen consultant, code consultant, specifications, environmental consultant. If we have to do Concom, geotechnical engineer.
But we don't need all of that before November.
You need a good majority of them. To define the project enough to have an estimate that we feel confident bringing forward.
Well, if we spend the 150 now and it's not far enough along, then we spend more in November.
Can I ask this question? If just going along this line, right, the concern is that there hasn't been enough stop points or gaps here to really do some testing to see what looks good. What if, don't shoot me when I say this, what if you do up to the 350 that we're agreeing to, but there's a pulse point in August or in July or whatever time frame that says it's a go, no go, based on what we get to at that point. And that the money is there, it will not be spent unless the FinCom and select board agree to spend it out of the revolving fund, but at least the money is there, so we don't have to go back and ask again in November for more money, but it won't be spent unless that pulse point in August, that 30% is where it needs to be. So I mean,
That's something we could easily write into the contract, and that's something we do with our consultants all the time of basically giving it task-based where you have authorization to proceed on specific tasks. You're not authorized to go beyond until, we say so. So we could, and honestly, that was some of my comments. I have comments on their proposal to get more detail. This is a rough draft we got yesterday. Getting more of that detail, and that's something we could incorporate into and give us a line item breakdown, or I shouldn't say line item, but by phase breakdown for the work that's associated with getting us from 10 to 30, and then from 30 to 75, and then from 75 to bidding.
Could
Three
you have a-
phases.
Did you have a motion that authorizes the full amount, but spending is in some way subject to the approval of the,
No.
I'm trying to figure out a way to.
I mean, I think it would be,
Not
all
to
have
exceed
to
amount,
agree.
yeah.
The fact that you were
Not
gonna
to
do.
exceed
whatever
expenditures
it's
for
your
X
work.
amount of certain,
Within a time frame, you've got the right.
No, no, we do what we can. I mean, this is not a new situation for us in our projects. I mean, we did it on PFAS, we've done it on, there's a certain scope that we award to get the answers we need to get. We just frankly don't keep you guys involved because it's not necessary.
You don't want to stir in the
And I can't quite relate.
The minute sausage.
Just to kind of prove the point a little bit, like Andy, you mentioned the boat ramp. Neither of us were here for that boat ramp. But do you think it was because they didn't spend enough money in design or because they didn't spend enough money in design that they had the issues?
Nobody was watching that.
No,
Yeah,
it was the construction that was the issue.
So anyway, I guess.
This has been a flawed process, as John has said. From a long time ago, and you can say, well, if the Masons had only come to the table 3 years ago, we could have done a deal and we wouldn't be talking about it. That's if only.
Not to blame,
but I
do not
think
blame the Masons on this.
Okay, they are wonderful. I agree. They're lovely. So it was,
I'm somewhat offended by that comment.
well, whose fault is it that it took so long?
It took 2 years to sign.
Because we had things that have never been done before. Okay, and once we had, again, you see it right here, once we get to committees, things just, it's where good ideas go to die. We were 80% there, and then we had to go between their building committee, we had to come back and forth with our attorneys. So we worked very closely with them, and I find it somewhat offensive to blame them that why it took so long. I'm done.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out why it took so long. That's it.
Okay, well.
Maybe there's no answer.
At this point, it doesn't matter. I think we all need to just focus on what do we do now? We are in this, we're in a pickle. And what do we do now?
I don't think there's an agreement here. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Really don't.
I agree
So
with you.
I think
I agree with you. There is not an agreement.
I just think
No agreement.
it's not that I don't like you guys, but
We like you too.
it's the reality is you might have to go two separate ways here. That's all there is to it.
Absolutely. I mean, I voted whenever it was, last Thursday or a week ago. Let's let it, put it on the warrant, but I'm not gonna vote to recommend it.
But now
That's
you're
fine.
going to recommend to support 150.
Well, that's because I've been persuaded, but I don't like it.
We'll go to two. Can't you just get it up to two? No, it's critical that both groups are behind this effort.
I don't see it, John.
I
I want
gotta
it,
work.
but I
We
don't
gotta
see
get
it.
to that point somehow, because that's so critical for the fundraising piece here.
We lock the bathrooms and nobody gets to leave.
It really is.
I think you could. I don't know how you reduce the amount by half. I don't think that that's gonna get you where you wanna go. I think you could reduce it down to 300. I think you could make a commitment that we're not gonna spend once we get to 75%, and we'll check in at 30. But I don't think pulling a number out of thin air is the right.
It's not pulling money out of thin air.
Well, it's not, it is, it's
It's
not.
coming up with a number that we're comfortable spending until we have more information.
Yeah, it's not.
That's
it's not
all
only
it
a number,
is.
and it's-
But it
it's-
doesn't, there's no, when I say pulled out of thin air, you don't know what 150 gets you. You don't know what information that's gonna provide
Gonna
you.
be more than we have today.
It will be.
Right, but it may not be.
You go buy a
It will be
car and
a better
split it in half.
estimate and a
You
level
get in the
of
front half or the rear half.
It'll be a better estimate with a level of confidence in that estimate. That's what I would expect.
I'm not confident that's the case. That's the problem. I could go with 150 if somebody could tell me, yeah, we are definitely gonna be there, but that's
I'm not
here.
saying it's not gonna be a worse estimate. It's going to be a better estimate, and that professional.
But is that enough to fundraise? Is that enough to move forward?
She's saying she's starting to fundraise anyway, without spending this money.
So pull the whole article, right?
That's what I suggested at the beginning. Pass it over.
No, I think you still have to have an endorsement from the two boards.
I agree with you, John,
Just a
but
question
I
of
don't,
whether-
I honestly don't see it. I'm not hearing it.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a leap of faith that we take the 300 and you have to trust our OPM and our staff, the people we've hired to do their job.
That's like, Brian, you arguing that anytime we're gonna spend money, we pick a number and expect to spend less, but we're gonna pay for it anyway. That's not a good argument. It's not a fiscally responsible argument that you should be spending what you're comfortable spending at any point in a project.
I'm comfortable spending
And-
350.
Well, is it
Okay.
fiscally responsible to come up with a number that you don't know what you're getting for that number?
If
You don't know you're getting the job done, 150.
if you can create a $90 million
I don't want to compare this.
project based
Hey,
on a
but you're
30%
talking about an
design.
MSBA project. They build these all the time. MSBA has you build to a certain spec, and part of that is in there. So you have a lot better of an idea what you're going into at 30%. You're building something nobody's ever done before.
People build this sort of thing every day. This is not rocket science. This is an addition, two additions to an existing building.
And I think the correct approach is to say, what is the information that we want? And then what is it gonna cost us to get that? That's the approach. And if we want to get to 75% design, it's not gonna be accomplished by cutting this proposal in half.
No, so here's why I'm comfortable with going with some lower number. Because let's play devil's advocate here. Let's say we have, what's our current number at 6 million or something? The estimate? something like that.
No, it's really.
Okay, well, I mean, we have a 10%, we have a 10% design at 6 million, okay? Let's say we spent 150K and all of a sudden the number went up. Okay, right?
Which is cool.
Right? And let's say it goes beyond 6 million. You know, what would we do then? I'd rather spend 150 or 200, whatever it is, to find that out, rather than spend 350 to find that out.
So
But
you're not
what's
find
gonna
that number
happen
at
is-
50.
What's gonna happen is you're gonna say, well, we're not super confident on that cost estimate. We need more design to get an updated cost estimate, and then you're gonna be months down the road and the inflation's gonna continue to rise. I think it's just, you're just, it's
It's a penny wise and pound.
it just delays.
If we went on that argument, we would be building $200 million worth of capital projects
now.
today.
Correct.
Because we don't want future costs to impact us, and
That's right.
that's not realistic.
That's right.
Well, but we're not committing to construction dollars here. We're talking about getting.
No, but you're talking about doing it very quickly because the future
Yeah, you
costs could
can't
rise,
plan
and
for
I'm
it.
saying that's not a valid
not a
argument, or
valid
else we'd be doing everything today.
I'm saying, let's get the information that we need to make an informed decision when that time comes, not pay for a lesser amount of information to then be faced with the decision of, do we need more information to make that informed decision? That's what I'm saying.
I don't think there's a rush. I'm sorry. This proposal is including stuff we don't need at this point.
I agree,
And-
but I don't
and-
think it reduced,
So
I
I
don't think
can't
it's half.
I can't support this price because it's including stuff we don't need.
Right, but I don't think it's half. I don't think you just cut it in half.
I think what you're objecting to is about $35,000.
No, I don't agree with that, Ann.
Okay,
Okay, so you're gonna.
I think it's a huge difference.
okay, what is it that you don't want?
Don't want to go from 75% to 100%, don't want the bidding, don't want the construction documents. You know, I want the 30% design. Which includes 4 meetings and presentations.
We're gonna talk about what 30%, what 4 meetings. I'm just, there's really nothing to talk about with 30%.
I don't agree with that, Brian.
Obviously, we're not gonna agree on this at all. Okay, and now we're just beating a dead horse here. And to Jeff's point, and John, I totally agree with you, we have to show this support of these two boards,
Right.
but I don't see it. I don't see.
Not if we stick
I
with
don't-
350.
I think what I'm hearing from FinCom is there may be some support for a lower number. And the question I think we need to ask ourselves, is it more important to show movement and support of both boards? Or are we letting perfection get in the way of good enough?
Well, let me ask this, so you wanna cut it to 150. What's gonna be the answer when the seniors come and say, why are you only designing this to 30%? What's that, who's gonna answer that, and what is that answer?
Why would they ask the question?
Because it's.
Because they want the thing.
Or the seniors, which,
Yeah.
tell me the group that's holding the rudder here among the
They're the
seniors.
same people that are gonna vote for every other capital, okay?
I'm a senior and I've had 0 input on this project. So it's a small group of people who are pushing this project.
I think to answer your question, Jeff, the answer is that when we started down this path, it was just a senior center. And now, in order to increase the utilization of the building, and because there was an outcry when the community center in downtown went away, we added that to our scope. Now that we have a different scope, we have to bring other people in and bring other people along this process. We haven't had time to do that because we just closed on the building last week.
Okay, so to that point, we've added uses to it,
We've
right?
added uses, yes, which could
So let's
affect the
say-
design
so
if
let-
we're not careful. right?
But that could also cost more to design. So let's say that the senior center is 30%. All these town offices are a certain percent to design. The Parks and Rec is a certain amount that's got to design. So let's say that's 60% design.
When you say 60, I'm not sure that we're using that percentage in the same manner. We're not.
So we're
talking
saying,
about
so
the same thing.
say you want to say to 30%.
Yeah.
But that's for a senior center.
No, that's a
No, I think that's the source of confusion here.
No, that's the whole building.
The definition, Nate and Chuck, can you help us all understand what 30% design means? It's not 30% of the square footage.
No, it's
Yeah.
30% of the work to design. it.
Yeah.
But inside of that, there's gonna be more work to design a building that's not just a senior center.
John just responded to me.
Oh, good.
He said you can reduce it by 87,500, which brings it to 256,200.
To get 30%.
I asked him about that. I sent that text up when we were talking about 75%.
Ask him about 30%.
No.
Yes, because if he's a professional, he can tell you what it is.
Can I ask a timeline question? Because are we truly aiming for fall town meeting to have a project to then vote on authorizing money?
No.
Okay, so what's the next step beyond, once we have the design and sufficient to get a reasonable cost estimate? What's our goal timeline?
Then for SUDA,
think
to go to town, right?
I think it's dependent on how much is brought in outside of town funds. So you understand what the delta is, and then it's going through our, understanding.
No. What I was envisioning is we have two numbers in November, right? And then we have to get together and the first question is this a go or no go?
The two numbers being,
Being the total estimated cost of the project and the amount we can get through fundraising.
Okay.
Because that would tell us what the delta is. And then I think we all get together with town input and say, is this a go or no go? Because anytime you have a checkpoint, the only useful checkpoints are go, no go decisions. Okay? And we haven't had the time to talk to the entire town about the concept of a joint, right? Senior and community center. So at some point, there's got to be a go, no go decision. And the question is, can we allocate some money at this town meeting to get more information to make that go, no go decision a better decision? That's kind of what's in my head. I don't like spending $350, but I don't think I can get it.
But one thing that's a factor on this timeline is the money raising activity, and the soft launch is what's happening in the fall. Okay, the actual kickoff of this doesn't happen until October or November. In other words, you don't want to go out there unless you've already got half the money kind of in the bucket or some sort of a number. And that's the number that might be available in October. But in terms of a total number, if you're trying to say, all right, how much money have we got? October, November is not the time.
Right.
We aren't going to know. We're going to know kind of how things are going.
Well, we'll get
Correct.
an indication.
Yes.
So I think we've been underway to get an indication to try, what I'm calling it is, the anchor funds, right? These are the ones that are gonna be the anchors, the larger donations that we can get a commitment
These
letter
guys-
on. That's what I'm looking
These
for
guys
between
aren't there.
now and November. The more information we have about the cost of the project, the better. The more definitive that we are in terms of the group coming in and a decision on this, the better, whichever way that goes. But putting really clear guidelines around that's important. Honestly, if we're going on this route now, we're talking a year out. April town meeting next year to bring this up. Because if you're getting all the information in November, if there's a November town meeting, we're not gonna rush this through. Right. So now we're a year out and that actually benefit, there's both sides to this. I mean, more money may be able to be raised, but it also delays this another year before we can actually.
That's not another year.
Well, I mean, the decision making, I'm saying.
But it doesn't delay the project and it wouldn't
Because it wouldn't be ready anyway.
be ready
But
anyway.
I'm saying decision making. Again, I go back to, all of this is really important. The other side of this is the political will and obviously the community spirit that's around this. And what we don't want to do is diminish that by getting it too deep, to your point of, is it good enough to go? Can we make this stuff happen? I think that if we can just stay on task of getting some numbers in November that are realistic, whatever they may be, working parallel process to look what we can get in terms of donations and letters of commitment through November, taking that pause and seeing, but there has to be a definitive date, to your point, of where it's a go or no go. We can't, and the
Can't
impact.
keep stringing people along.
Well, we can, and the impact, we now have a contractual agreement with the Masons that have this in the contract documents. So this gets so much more complicated than just that. So, you know, in for a penny, in for a pound to some degree, it doesn't mean that we have to spend all this ridiculous money. We need to be very careful about it. But the train is on the tracks, you know, and we've got to be very careful about how we're managing that. So that's all.
Are you saying, Susan, we're committed to this project no matter what?
No, because but we have a contract, we have a deal closed. There's all of this in there, you know, with the Masons, I'm talking about the condo agreement is there. Whether or not the senior center happens, there's certainly an out if it doesn't, right? I mean, I'm assuming that's part of the contract. But I mean, that's a scary thing, right? After all this time and effort.
I'm not gonna repeat the tell seniors, oops.
He's saying 250 gets you to 75. If you, I mean, if you're comfortable with 2, and that gets both boards together and supportive of it,
225.
you guys can go.
I'm serious,
back
I'm
and
serious,
forth,
I've been pushing 2.
you know? I don't wanna hamstring the design.
No,
I will say that it is not unusual to have full funding of a full proposal for a full design that we authorize and then we control the spend up to a certain point, you know, that there are these checkpoints. I will allow for that.
He's willing to include that in the contract too.
Because to me, the more important thing is that there are those checkpoints and that at 30% and that, you know, whatever the next phase is, 75 or whatever, we have this opportunity.
I have no problem with that.
To further discuss,
I'm good with it.
you know, where it
That only
is,
makes sense.
make sure that it's, you know, it's not, you know, looming, you know, beyond some budget that we consider reasonable. So I'm open to that.
So how would you
what
recommend?
did we just, 2 2.25?
We
Do I get
did.
2.25?
That he can't proceed without town approval after a certain checkpoint.
Yeah.
You can have 2 checkpoints, 3 checkpoints, whatever you want to make it.
But you're talking at the full 350.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to go to 2.
Give us 50 grand. We'll do this right now. Honest to God, give us 50 grand and we can go home.
to 200.
Give me another 50 grand. Well, right now, honest to God, give us another 50 grand.
You did
You can put this
250.
to bed right now.
You did 250 with a checkpoint at 30%.
That's his, I will.
250 gets you to 75%, but you can't go there until you check in at 30.
So what is, just let me ask it, McKay, what does check-in mean? Does that mean in August 15th, when people are out of town, we have a meeting here and we talk and talk and talk and everybody nods their head and we say, okay, let's spend more? Or is there something definitive that happens at that date? I mean, and I'm not being facetious about this, it's real town money we're spending here. And, you know, part of me is like, okay, am I comfortable with 200, 150? And, you know, part of me also says, is our objective here to create a sense of support amongst the voters of the town that these 2 committees are firmly behind this and that we want to bring it up in its entirety in November? And actually say, we are working on this, we've had great progress, but when we get to November, we're going to have a plan, we're going to have more fundraising information, and we are going to be prepared to vote on some level of money in November. Unfortunately, that may be matched up with the school situation, but that is also,
Have enough information.
yeah, we want to probably have enough information to do that, but
Let's not worry about what we're gonna do in November. We're not
Yeah.
ready. We can easily slide that to the next
Right.
April. So,
Yeah.
But. Okay, we got the two boards that are apart by 50 grand.
Come on, guys.
The impression that it will make on town meeting of support for this project is worth more than that.
The measure.
We want this project to go forward. Nobody here has been saying, it's only 15 seniors and they can go rock.
Right.
But it will be much more effective if we can agree on a number.
Or said another way, I think if both boards don't support it, we're risking a no-go right now. My honest.
Yeah. That's that is not a very bad look. And that won't get erased.
And this is a number that our architects say we can work with.
To 75%.
To 75%.
So I would say 200 because we don't need to go to 75%.
So say you. Yeah.
Okay, you really, okay,
We needed, yeah.
Well, Brian threw out 2.25, which was splitting that.
No, but I'm gonna go, I mean. Yeah, then you have to- I'm gonna go with what John, I mean, we were asking him, he came with a number. Okay, it's $100,000 less than we first talked about. I think that's a big ask and a big move on our part. I think 250 is not unreasonable. I'm gonna ask you to stop digging your heels in, all right? And let's move forward. And let's just get this thing done.
Not a big number for a budget of 40 million, 50 million.
We're not asking for $50 million.
So the overall town, by our budget.
Oh, the overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're dealing with a lot of money.
39.
It's like we need, it's a regional process to say, look, we need the 75%. Because that's what we need to fundraise to figure out what the whole thing's gonna look like now. Let's change a whole bunch. So we got a solid number from our architect.
So we're doing
So
250.
it seems reasonable and
Okay.
prudent.
Okay, Maureen?
Okay, I'm good.
Okay, Gar?
So, does this have a check date in it?
Yes.
What is
In
the
the
check
contract.
date?
30%.
Anybody know?
Is that a date or is that a?
I think a percentage.
I'm gonna check the YouTube talk.
I'll tell you.
How do you enforce the checkpoint, Nate?
So when we put the contract together, we will designate it by task, but not to proceed beyond, so 10 to 30, 30 to 75 and so forth. So we can.
Okay.
Give those-
milestone date too.
Okay, so I have,
Does
I
a
have,
calendar date go with that?
yep, so I have, in my schedule, I have
Columbus Day.
for August 31st.
August 31st.
Happens to be a Monday too.
2 months.
Thank you. And who makes that decision?
In regard to.
Well, it's August 31st. They,
The checkpoint.
there's a checkpoint.
So
As Kathy says, there's a go or no go day. Who?
It's contingent on town review. We're
Right,
asking
yeah,
for-
so we're going to,
You to manage
right, so
the
we're
process.
going to the select board to
Yeah.
present what we've developed from 10 to 30%. And then at that point, if the select board likes what they see or they have comments or whatever iteration of that, we can then go from there.
And would that be accompanied by an updated cost estimate for the project?
We had not discussed that, we had withheld the 30, doing a cost estimate in that section because we didn't think it was gonna be reliable enough and to
And
save
it adds cost,
budget.
and it also adds cost to go
Right,
out to bid.
you're adding costs, so we deliberately not included a cost estimate in that phase and shifted them
So
to.
what's the basis for your decision of go or no go?
That's not, when
That's
I
not his
used the word
decision.
no go and no go, that was November. When we have a real, the best estimate at that point plus the fundraising
Okay.
estimate. I think we need
So
both.
there's no point in having a.
Yeah, so what do you want to learn from this?
In
What
that.
do you want to learn from this 30%?
We can
Make some
certainly.
adjustments. I mean, if we're looking at stuff at 30%, say, well, that looks like, can we move something up?
Yeah,
Basically,
for sure, it could be worse.
And that's important.
Yes, yes.
And so then I would ask at those break points, 30% and 75%, that we then have the opportunity to gather back together.
And I think we should, this just a decision made by, not just by the select board.
No, this is.
Yeah, we should all be, yeah, I agree.
That'll be great.
So we
Free donuts.
So then, so to Andy and Gar's point, we want a cost estimate at 30% as well.
Sure.
Yes.
Then for that, we're gonna definitely need the 250.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because now we're asking.
Because if the cost estimate has gone to
Brian.
$12 million,
50 on this side of the table.
we're gonna wanna know.
Yeah,
about it.
we had a different set.
You heard, everyone heard that, right?
Don't push your luck.
Yeah.
I want 253.
All right,
Motion?
all right, 250 is good.
Going.
All right,
So.
all right, I'd like to make a motion.
That the
Go
select
ahead.
board approve the use of $250,000 from the Parks and Rec revolving fund to further develop the plans for the senior and community.
Recommend approval.
So we recommend it.
No, our recommendation for town meeting.
Yes.
And we'll make the adjustment for the floor as well.
It'll be amended on the floor. Tony will come up
No,
with
you
it.
can just do it in the motion, can't you?
Just be the main motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just don't have a motion, yeah.
All right, that's fine.
All right, I'm-
Second.
I'm- you said.
Yeah,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Anne says yes.
John says yes.
I make a motion that the finance committee recommend article number 6 in the amount of $250,000.
So moved. I'm sorry, second came before the so, but you know the usual is, we've done this, that'll work.
Take a vote.
That's what-
Andy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Gar,
Yes.
Maury.
Yes.
Dean,
I'd like to see substantial changes in the floor plan of the original,
Yes or no?
but I
Yes or
approve.
no?
I approve.
and Sarah votes yes.
Move it forward.
That is unanimous.
The record show that. All right, that will be in the motion also. Unanimity.
I'm sorry, I was thinking that.
What's the matter, Eli?
Oh, we're already adjourned.
Oh, you want to do it all together? Okay.
This is just informational. We made a goof on the quantum for the capital articles.
Oh,
And
okay.
You don't actually have to pay anything. I'm just gonna.
Oh, because we're really good at that.
Articles 11 through 15, we said the quantum was 2/3 town meeting floor.
Majority.
It's majority.
Yeah, I knew that.
Because of your crazy special act.
So
11, for which one?
It's
Right.
2/3 of the ballot and then the
That's-
majority on the Prop 2.5.
Just so that we can get
Is
this
what?
quicker. The ballot, these articles on town meeting floor will spawn, each one will spawn 2 measures on the ballot. One is the actual indebtedness and one is the Prop 2.5 override. The special act says, just so that people are aware. With respect to such indebtedness, the town determines by majority vote that the incurrence of indebtedness shall be submitted to the voters at ballot question, town election, the ballot question as to such a concurrence or shall is approved by a quantum of votes sufficient to authorize it at town meeting. So the special act actually changes the way that works. For everybody else, it's 2/3 of town meeting.
Okay.
For us, it's majority town meeting and 2/3 on the ballot.
Oh, okay, so it's different.
So that applies to number 18 also?
No, it does not apply to 18 because that's below 1 million.
Is it which ones does it?
Oh, yeah.
11 through 15
Through 15.
are gonna be majority vote on town meeting floor. 2/3 vote,
At the ballot.
2/3 at the ballot for the indebtedness. And majority for the 2.5 override at the ballot.
So you'll be.
Right, and
Her job is to explain.
And Eli, for the library, it's majority across the board.
At for the
No.
library, it is
2/3 across.
2/3 at town meeting.
Okay.
Because it's,
And it doesn't go on.
Because it's a capital,
no, because your bylaw sets the threshold at 1 million.
Oh.
And since that amount, the
it's less
special
than
act
one
refers to the amount set.
oh, when it's less than 1 million, it's harder?
There's-
Yes,
That's what that is.
But we don't put it on the ballot.
It doesn't go on a ballot.
It doesn't, well, it is, it's a capital.
It's a capital
You get
exclusion.
one ballot.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
that's majority of it.
Majority on the ballot.
Have coffee on the day we're gonna meet.
Okay, all right.
I didn't put it together.
I'm done now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think I seconded that motion to adjourn. I don't think anyone paid attention. but I-
voted, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I second.
Eli, just tell them that unanimous count.
Yeah, right? Yes,
Say
yes.
unanimous count.
Yeah.
Well, you vote from the.
All right.
But it says the word.